Hey, this is Zepp, and on behalf of the guys, Stru, Boomer, and Lukey, we want to thank you for downloading and listening to our podcast of The Ticket Outdoors, brought to you by Mills Fleet Farm. And remember, when nothing's going right, just go fishing.
Summer fun begins at Mills Fleet Farm. For thrills on the water, jump on a full-throttle Enforcer towable. On sale, $99.99. Save on Michelin tires. Buy 4, get a $70 MasterCard reward card. Bring home the good stuff for your pets. Get a $10 gift card when you buy select sizes of Science Diet dog or cat food. And stock up on Pine Tree Farm's suet cakes. They're just 69 cents each at Mills Fleet Farm.
It's time for Ticket Outdoors on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
The gang's all back together. I know, we're just kind of getting settled in, just kind of like you folks out there.
Hey, when we get Hall of Fame anglers in here like John Thielen, we got to start stealing the fishing tips right now.
I know.
I got to start peppering them.
I, for the first time this season, decided to start watching some Fish Ed TV because I just can't seem to catch a walleye this year. Not that I'm trying that hard. You know, I go out and I try and catch me some bass and some panfish, and then I get serious. I'm like, I'm going to catch a walleye. You got to get one. You got to cross it off the list right away, right?
It's on your bucket list, right?
It's July, and I still haven't landed one yet. We've got John Thielen Fish Ed TV, and so I've learned a few things, and he brought me in one of those little guy Lindy's.
Lindy Little Rig. I'm going to try this out on Gull Lake this weekend. I tell you what, maybe that's it. You go to the nice places. I'm down on Pryor. They just stocked that thing in 2013 with, I don't know, a whole pile of walleye. What do they call them? Fingerlings? Fingerlings, that's it. I always feel weird saying that. My mom is going to slap my face. Yeah. All these times we do these fishing trips, and I kind of felt like, we've gone to the UP of Michigan, Stu. We've gone up to Devil's Lake. We're going to be going back to Devil's towards the end of July here.
I'm ready.
And, we've done bowstring, and a lot of these times we run into these nasty storms or fronts that seem to, shut down the fish. We still manage to do all right. But I'm going to talk about it on the Lake Report tonight, but I was just on Lake Osakis.
Every time it storms like that, my son Michael will say, oh, man, you've been boomered.
But absolutely the opposite happened. So I want to thank the folks out at Lake Osakis Guide Service. They had a nice potluck. I went out there and I got some content for tonight's Lake Report. But I got on the lake and it was clear on my iPhone. The weather was supposed to be absolutely beautiful, right?
Right. What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? And I started to see these dark clouds to the north of me.
Yeah.
And we started chasing these walleyes, actually rigging with Lindy's out there. And
was this Monday?
This was maybe it was Monday or Sunday.
Both Sunday and Monday about 6 o'clock we got hammered.
And all of a sudden we got into these humps out into the middle of the lake, which we'll talk about in the Lake Report later. And wham, started drilling into the walleyes, and then all of a sudden we hear the thunder.
Yeah.
So I got to fish for about 30 to 40 minutes in the T-Pro, but we did catch some fish, but it was like absolutely the opposite's true, right?
Yeah,
Typically we get to the storms on the front end, but
generally you don't see with weather forecasts. What are they, about 99% accurate, aren't they?
Yeah.
Especially in the summer.
So,
that'll happen. And maybe that's it. I got to get out on these big bodies of water. We'll be talking with John Thielen, host of Fish Ed TV. He's got the new Lindy Little guy that he brought in. He's going to tell us about that. I guess I got to get serious. I'm fishing off of I don't have, I'm the only one on the show, John, that doesn't have a boat. I'm standing on culverts in Spring Lake.
But I
fishing
told you,
out
man,
probably E. coli traps and
you
Lake
can rent
Nokomis.
my boat, my boat,
rent
Mark's
my boat,
boat.
right?
You rent it out
throwing that rent word in
We're going to be fair to you, pal. That's the Ticket Out. We got a new boat called the Ticket Outdoors. And,
I'm going to shut your microphone off.
No. We'll be good to you.
All right. Well, Billy Moles is back from New Zealand, so we'll talk some big game tonight. I'm excited about that. Yeah. Bill Shirk, our buddy, might have been our first guest on Ticket Outdoors. Yes. He was the guy that was supposed to get the job, but they couldn't afford him, and they ended up. So then they could afford both Stru and I.
That's right.
But he's got a new show, and I always catch Due North with him. Thursday nights, I know it runs earlier. I catch the later show. They replay it at 10 p.m. I watch it for Laura, of course, Shara.
But now they have a new show.
I guess he's got a new show called.
On the new show,
he's not happy unless he has about 8 TV shows going, Bill Shirk. And then Chris Carney. Who's Chris Carney? I bet Chris you know the name Steve Carney.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Chris is his, sort of like, you remember Billy Carter was to Jimmy Carter?
Yes.
That's sort of, he's like
but Chris Carney is sober most of the time as compared to Billy. But I think it'll be fun with Chris. I've spoken to Chris Carney a couple of times, and I read the Outdoor News last week, and Steve gave Chris a whole bunch of sass, making fun of him for screwing up everything he does in a fishing boat.
Right.
And all of a sudden, Chris caught himself a 29-inch walleye, and he said to his brother, "Okay, screw you, pal." And here I go.
Steve Carney. Steve Carney, big-time fishing guy.
It should be fun.
And frequent contributor to Outdoor News, but we'll give Chris his shot, his rebuttal.
That's right.
Get to pick on his brother a little bit. So, we'll get to Boomer. He does all the fun, exciting stuff. How's your week been, Stu?
Had a great week. Very, very busy. Golfed with my gorgeous wife, Diana, in Barron on Friday.
Where did you guys golf?
We golfed at a golf course called Rolling Oaks, and Rolling Oaks is like one of those golf courses where you think, man, this is a piece of cake, and I still can't break 90. I shot a 95. John and I were talking about golf just a couple of minutes ago, and I shot a 95, but the good news is Diana shot a 97, so that's all I care about. But beautiful day. A little bit of fishing, didn't catch a whole lot. Hopped in the pontoon, went out for dinner, and it just... a lot of things like that, but a lot of fun.
I'm having a great year for panfish, but I'm just not getting anything super, but just good. You know, we've the girls and I have had a couple of fries, and so what are we, a couple of months in, and feeling good about that.
Worked a lot. I got to tell you a story about my buddy Bob Krejci, and Bob Krejci is a guy who fishes more than John Thalen. And Bob Krejci, he used to be in the real estate industry with me for many, many years. Now he works at Fleet Farm like all the old farts. He's got his old special old man concrete shoes. But Bob fishes almost every day. He got himself a new used boat, 16-foot something with a 40 horse on it, and his old boat, he said his trailer had just didn't have rollers, it just had, I don't know what you call
it.
The pads where you slide the boat in.
Right.
So the first time he's going to back this boat up to the ramp, he disconnects takes the chains off, and he disconnects the boat from the trailer itself. And as he gets back in his truck, this one's on rollers. He's sitting in the ramp, and all of a sudden the boat
floating away.
It rolls right off the back of his trailer, right under the concrete pad. And this guy has fished.
Didn't have it in the water
he has fished his entire life, and you hear these stories happen to Bob Krejci. He's all embarrassed. He's trying to drag. Fortunately, the motor was up in the air, so it didn't hit the prop or anything. But he's trying to turn the boat around and drag it into the water before someone shows up. It didn't happen. So someone eventually helped him. But how embarrassing for someone who's done it for many, many years.
You know, I had that happen. I was fishing Waconia the other day, and there was a couple guys that were in a hurry, and you know, I don't wish any bad luck on them, but I had Sophia with me, and you know, we were trying to, and actually another couple Girl Scouts, and we were taking them out there fishing, and they were dropping a couple F-bombs. They were pretty impatient, and they were getting hurried, and that's the worst thing you can do is razzle yourself when you're getting the boat down the ramp, right? Because you'll cut it too hard when you're backing up. Well, they get about halfway out from the docks.
They kept hollering fish. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
fish?
They should have been yelling plug, because they didn't have the plug, and the old butt end of that boat was just up, and they just barely made it in. So I think that happens to everyone's trip.
Oh yeah, the old boat plug that got Dad on, in his 60s. The boat plug again. So
yeah.
I also had a chance to go to the station, the pub station in Wiper Lake. It used to be Manitou Station, and see our friend Kate. Kate was on last week. You weren't here.
It's not Manitou anymore?
No, they changed it to pub station because they wanted people to realize this is going to be all Irish stuff. A lot of it's Irish. You have the Irish eggs and whatnot. and
Scottish eggs.
Scottish eggs, yeah.
Oh,
so anyway,
very
so I stopped and saw her and had a couple of beers, BS with her, and thanked her for being on the air last week. We learned a lot about Lyme's disease. This lady's going through a hell of a time.
Yeah.
And she lives right in Wiper Lake. She's never been in the woods in her life hardly, and she got Lyme's disease, has no idea where it is, and she's fighting. It's been 3 years and going through a hard time. So that was a great guest.
Is that the deer tick that spreads that one?
Yeah, they're kind of small. They look a little smaller than a wood tick.
The red spot on them, or red head or something like that.
And I didn't know this. I thought all ticks, including deer ticks, would stay inside your body, and you see the tick, you pick it out, and then all of a sudden you go have it checked out. But a deer tick apparently bites and bails out, and you don't even know what happens.
Remember that if you're out in the woods, half the fun of coming home is the old tick check.
That's right.
Had a little fun with that with the missus.
So I had a chance to go see her, and that was nice. And she's a nice lady. So
Zep, your week.
I did some fishing. I got out, just went down to Prior Lake, on Upper Prior Lake, and did some fishing. I heard they stocked a bunch of walleye back in 2013, and thought I might have some luck down there. But you know what? I'm slaying the bass this year. Caught my first large mouth down there on Prior Lake, and I didn't think they really were supposed to have a lot of them. And bluegills. Just having a lot of fun catching some bluegills and doing some fish fries. And so, just plinking and plunking. And Sid the Kid and I tooled out to Crystal Cave out in Wisconsin.
Never been there.
A lot of fun. It was
Spring Valley, Wisconsin.
Spring Valley, Wisconsin. Just about an hour drive. Not even. It's an easy drive. We took the motorcycle, so that we didn't even. And it took us an hour.
Yep.
So if you blast out 94, it'll take you about 45 minutes. And had it rained on us a little bit coming back into the Stillwater Music Festival on Sunday, but had a blast doing that. Had not been out to Crystal Cave and just had a lot of fun. It was
and
great.
You enjoyed it. It's something that I would enjoy, my grandkids would enjoy.
Yeah, and if it hadn't started raining, what's the dam over there? There's a dam a couple of miles away. We're going to go over to the dam.
What is that?
But, there's only so many times you can take the kid to the Como Zoo or the zoo or the few attractions that we, have here in the metro, and we have some nice ones. It's not that far, gang. Head on out there. The kids will have a blast. They let them run around. It's not one of those caves somebody's going to fall into a 1,000-foot crevice. It's a lot of fun. They got a picnic area out there, the whole thing.
So is Sid the young lady who's got the motorcycle?
She is.
She's a moped, right?
A little biker. Well, she's got the real deal now, a Yamaha 250.
Good for her.
Yeah. Ooh. Well, I'd rather she didn't, but you know how that story goes. Yeah. She's like, well, Dad, you can show me how to ride, or I'll find a boy. Somebody will show me how to ride. I'm like, all right. You made your point.
Now, our lives were pretty much trivial last week, but Boomer had a hell of a week out east someplace, right?
Yeah. I went out east and had a little vacation time out in Virginia Beach area, and it was kind of nice. And then
how was the fishing?
It was good. Caught a few and relaxed a little bit. Yeah, that's nice. Tried to, stay hydrated with all the activities and working out and running on the beach, and then made it back here and got back in the old Alumacraft T-Pro.
Did you have to fish real deep? I'm just asking.
When you go out to those kind of waters, Drew, a lot of the time you're looking for structure under the bridges. So we were looking for the Chesapeake Bay area.
I would check out the cabbage if I were you.
Yeah.
Look for the cabbage in the deeps.
Well, good for you.
It was fun. It was good times. But then got back and I was really excited to get back in the T-Pro. And Zepp, what you were saying a lot might make sense about if you're doing a lot of shore fishing right now and you aren't getting into the walleyes. I'm going to ask Thielen to pipe in here after the segment, so if I say something really bad, he can correct me. But this time of year, when those temps start to warm up and the water's going to start to turn over, those walleyes are going to maybe be going into little deeper pockets. You're going to look for some of those bars more towards the middle of the lake because they're kind of sensitive to the light, and they're going to move away from those, traditional first and secondary breaks from the shoreline. So we'll have to get you out into the Alumacraft T-Pro because that's exactly what we did on Osakis and I'll be doing on Gulf.
And not my first rodeo. I know that's why I've been doing so well with the panfish, and that's a lot of fun just to get out and, it's a therapeutic thing. You bring the chair, you bring the tackle box, a couple of rods, and there goes the morning.
Well, especially this time of year, and I don't want to, ruin what we're going to talk about Lake Report, but Lindy rigging is really popular this time of year, because you can run a variety of presentations on it, from leeches to, some people, John, are even still running shiners on some of them, to worms, because it's a good way that you can cover a lot of ground because the walleyes might be spread out. And if you're looking for those new spots into the middle of the lake that have little deeper pockets and you're trying to work that line of water depth that's coming up, you can work that entire water column with the Lindy rig and have some pretty good luck. But we'll talk about that later.
Let's get into it. I can tell you're getting restless in the gate there.
Let's go.
We'll move along with the show. We got a fun one. Bill Shirk, Chris Carney, brother Steve Carney, Billy Moles, the modern-day mountain man, on a little bit later. We're coming right back with the host of Fish Ed TV, John Thielen, on Ticket Outdoors.
Gio and Jones getting you to work every weekday morning until 8. This is Greg Giannotti. You're listening to Sports Radio 105 The Ticket.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, only on 105 The Ticket.
Joey Logano just screens out into the lead. McMurray slots into second. Matt Kenseth and Kevin Harvick side by side for third.
A 4th of July weekend tradition. Daytona International Speedway under the lights. The Coke Zero 400 is Sunday night starting at 5:30.
That's the battle for the lead at turn 1.
This is Brad Keselowski. This is Dylan Hart Jr. This is Jeff Gordon. This is Jimmy Johnson. This is Kevin Harvick.
Your home for NASCAR in the Twin Cities is Sports Radio 105 The Ticket.
Gear up for the 4th at Mills Fleet Farm. Proudly wave Old Glory with an Olympus flag set or flag, just $4.99. Patriotic folding armchairs are on sale, only $8.99. The picnic buffet will look great on a 6-foot straight or center folding table. Your choice, $36.99. And you can't have a picnic without Frito-Lay snacks. Lay's chips, Tostitos, rolled gold pretzels. Get 5 bags for just $10 at Mills Fleet Farm.
The Ticket Outdoors is proud to be a partner with Lakes Trading Company. Why? Because they kick That's why. Guns to buy, guns to shoot, guns to rent, and the best prices on ammo around. We love Lakes Trading Company because they eat, sleep, and breathe guns just like us. Looking to get a permit to carry class or renew your old permit? Don't be disappointed by a cut-rate instructor. Lakes Trading Company has top-notch instructors and on-site range and meals provided. Lakes Trading Company, off 8th Street in Forest Lake, or online at lakestradingco.com.
Well, Minnesota fishing season is officially here, and it's time to hit your favorite lakes and fishing spots. Boomer here with the Ticket Outdoors, and I want to thank Alumacraft for being our official boat sponsor. I just got off the water with my Alumacraft T-Pro, and boy, do I love the space, storage, and sweet ride on the water. I love Alumacraft because they're made right here in Minnesota, and they're simply the best aluminum boat on the market. For more about Alumacraft, visit your local dealer or go to alumacraft.com.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
Hey, while we're hearing from our sponsors, just a quick reminder, we all know that summer is upon us, and whether you're going on a road trip or just to the store, you're going to need a great set of tires. So at Doreen Mills Fleet Farm Destination Summer Drive event, you're going to receive up to a $70 prepaid card when you purchase a new set of 4 qualifying Cooper tires.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Zepp, we wouldn't be able to do this show and have the fun we do when we're talking hunting and fishing without the great folks at Dan's Southside Marine.
And?
I was just down there on 98th Street in Bloomington. They were doing a little work to the Alumacraft T-Pro, and I want to give a big shout-out to the boys and girls down in St. Peter, Minnesota. Alumacraft been a great partner with us since the beginning. And Lakes Trading Company, if you're looking to get a new gun, or you're looking to upgrade your gun, or hell, get a silencer or whatever that thing is we had on the show, go visit those folks. And if you still want to pimp out that truck for hunting and fishing season, visit the nice boys and girls at Custom Truck and Accessories.
And Fleet Farm, I was at Fleet Farm today, but we talk about Lakes Trading Company. You weren't here 2 weeks ago. Did you hear about the gun that my son Mike bought from Lakes Trading Company?
No, what'd he get?
What is it? I told you, it's that thing he's going to go shooting pocket gophers with or something.
Oh, was it to get an AR-15 or something?
Yeah,
the AR-15,
wow.
Yeah.
And it's apparently you can shoot 400 yards, and he's got a 100 round clip deal, and right. he's got everything. He's got
one of those 22 caliber long rifle calibers, but it's really flat shooting, which makes it ideal for predators.
Oh, he's excited.
And
how flat is a 22 caliber, Zepp? I mean, you got the million.
I mean, very flat. I mean, you can at 225 meters, you're still shooting flat. You have literally no drop.
It's hard to believe.
No, you'll get a big raise out of it. So it depends how you sight them in. But 200, 300, 400 meters even, you're shooting with very little drop. If you're shooting a 180 grain or 150 grain, 30-06 or a 7 millimeter or something like that, where it might drop 6 inches at 250 yards.
That's what I'd set my Yacht 6 in, is about 4 or 5 inches at that point.
On a 223 or caliber, you're dropping an inch or two. Wow. Somebody will call in and correct me on that. But it's just it's a high caliber, small bullet, so it's going to shoot very flat. And actually, where they get more inaccurate is when you're into that 50-yard range, because they have such a rise on them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
but it's that's a great predator weapon, and you can really load up and go out to those prairie dog, where there's a billion of them and they need to thin the herds down. Yeah. You go out there with a couple of 30 round or 20 round. It sounds like you might have a 100 round mag.
100 round, yeah.
Yeah, just go to town, man. Have fun.
Wow. Yeah. Well, speaking of predator hunting, let's talk about the man that hunts the big predator fish, walleyes, the expert. Ladies and gentlemen, from Fish Ed TV, the winner of 2 Telly Awards, Mr. John Thielen. Welcome to the Ticket Outdoors, buddy.
Thanks, guys. It's always great to be here. I was pretty happy to get the opportunity to come down here tonight to talk a little bit about some of the stuff we have going on right now, because we're at that time of the year where no matter where you look, no matter who you talk to, fishing's good right now.
Yeah. Right.
And we have a great thing happening this year. We had a normal spring for once, but we haven't had that huge heat yet. Right. So what's happened is the water stayed pretty cool, and the fishing's just been off the hook. It's been great everywhere. I've been out filming pretty much every week, and we're gone 4 or 5 days a week filming, trying to get everything put together for next year's Fish Ed TV shows and the internet shows that you can find over on YouTube. But I'll tell you what, I have seen some of the best fishing that I can remember in years. And the other neat thing that I'm seeing this year is more boats at landings than I've seen in the last 3 years.
Really?
It's good to see people out fishing. But I think part of that is we had a good spring. Everybody's bought their licenses. They're out fishing. So if you're not out there getting after the fishing, boy, the 4th of July weekend, what a great opportunity. We're going to have good weather the way it looks. Fish are biting. it's a great time to get out. So if you haven't been out, get out there this weekend.
Yeah. And you know what I think too, John, is when we look at all, I think licenses, I don't know the exact numbers, are pretty significantly or exponentially up this year versus last year in the state of Minnesota when I was talking to those folks. Gas is still relatively cheap, right? So some of those folks that have been in the bubble for a while, guys, about making that trip up north or out west or out east or down south, they're now taking that boat out. They got a little extra discretionary money to put back into the boat if they had to get it fixed or they traded up for another Alumacraft, and they're getting out there on the water.
Yeah, I drove by one of the landings on Mille Lacs on the way up last weekend, and I just made the comment to my son as we were driving along. I said, I haven't seen that launch full in 2 years, 3 years maybe, and it was jam-packed full. And that's really neat. It tells you a couple things. The bite's good. You can catch fish in a lot of places, but people are getting out and enjoying the outdoors again. So, that's great news.
I tell you, you mentioned taking the kids out the 4th of July weekend. Then before we get to what's new with you and Fish Ed TV and everything that's happening with Lindy, on the chain of lakes where we are in Chetek, there's 6 lakes. It's a tourist area. 4th of July, Memorial Day, it is just swamped with people. What can we do to make it easier to catch fish when there's people all around, boats going by, pontoons going by? Do you fish deeper? What do you do?
Fish are going to do one of two things. One, maybe they're going to feed in those low light situations a little bit more. Right. So you know what? As tough as it is sometimes, get up a little earlier and get out there a little earlier. Beat some of that traffic out there.
Okay.
One of the things, though, don't overlook the fact that boat traffic will actually push fish shallow as well. Because remember, boats can't run through that 2 or 3 feet of water.
Right.
And you'd be amazed at how often fish will push shallow. When you're out there deep, you're going to deal with that constant boat traffic. So, especially if you're pan fishing, look on that first break line. This weekend, one of the things you'll run into is fish are starting to, like Boomer was saying, they're working their way out to mid-lake stuff, but there's still plenty of fish hanging around shallow. Yeah. And when I say shallow, now I'm not talking your 2 or 3 feet anymore. The bluegills have pretty well pulled off the beds here this past week. It pretty much came to an end. The water temps finally got into those mid-70s. They got wrapped up, and they're the last ones to the dance. Now all of those fish are all sliding out a little bit deeper, but when I say shallow, look on that first break line, that 8-9 feet of water where there's some weeds. They're not going to be water skiing in those weeds, and there's going to be fish in there.
There you go. Good idea.
And I would say to add to that, too, John, is, don't be afraid to get away from the crowds. A lot of us, you can get those habits if you get out on the water and you see that school of boats out there, you see that school of ice fishermen and women, and you want to get over there. Don't be afraid to look at the map and veer away from them 20 yards to the right or 30 yards to the right. And I think this time of year, I know you want to relax on a July 4th weekend with, the Sea Sprite and the SS Ticket Outdoors, and I get it, and have a soda pop and chill. But if you're willing to be a little more mobile at first, I think you're going to have some better luck too. And if you get a couple bites, start to market or look for a pattern. We talked about, Zepp, when you got that smallie, about, hey, maybe I should go a little deeper from the bobber to the hook. If you start to see that pattern, then fall into that pattern as well.
Mentioning that, a good friend of mine, Dan Boris, has a place up on Trout Lake. His family's been up there for many, many years in the whitefish chain. And Dan called me yesterday. He's on his way back right now, and he said it took a long time for them to find the fish, the crappies. But when they found the crappies, they slayed them.
Oh, yeah.
And they were fishing in about 12 to 15 feet of water with the little Indian nipper, is what it was called?
Yep.
Yeah, and little jigs, and they were fishing suspended about little bobber and maybe 5 or 6 feet down. And he says once they found it, they caught some nice 13-inch crappies. They did really, really well.
Well, it's true. Let me throw something at you. That's really interesting to hear, because now earlier this week, we were up in north central Minnesota filming some walleye shows. And it was flat calm, and actually not earlier this week, late last week.
Yeah.
I lose track of the days. I literally come and go from home, twice a week.
Yeah.
Out for 5 days, back in for 2. And one of the things, though, that started happening is we had some flat calm days at the end of the week last week, and we watched water temps climb from the mid-60s into the mid-70s within a couple days. But one of the things we noticed is we were fishing walleyes in about 25 feet of water. And we were getting them real consistently. But all of a sudden, on the graph, about 72 degrees, we started seeing fish showing up high. So we finished up our walleye show, and I wish I would have had more time on my hands to shoot another show, because here's what we did. We threw the river rockers over the back of the boat. We started trolling, and they were crappies. And it would have just been, one of the things I love doing is pulling crankbaits for crappies, and the Lindy River Rocker's just a dynamite lure to do it with. Yeah. And I wish I would have had more. Those crappies were all lifting. Now, here's what I'm getting at, though. Look for that this weekend, especially if you get some calm water. Those crappies are all starting to finally get to that point where they're going to suspend over deeper water. So if they've kind of been a little bit like a ghost on you here since they left the shallows, you're going to be able to find them again. But one thing I want you to notice, too, is when you're looking at your graph, don't think, boy, that's just interference up there. If you see little black lines, they're not going to show up as big colored marks like a walleye does down on the bottom because of their thin profile. Those little thin black lines that you start seeing, if you're seeing a lot of them, that's not interference. Those are crappies.
It's hard to believe that people caught fish without the technology you guys have today. I mean, isn't it something?
I don't think they did they?
I would like to pick, John, while we got you in studio, your brain on two things before we get into Lindy and Fish Ed TV. One of them is lakes turning over. Right, we talk about that a lot. When do you see that happening? Right, the next turnover, and then what do you do? Because I have a lot of respect for John because he's been in this game for a long time, and I've looked up to what he's done for what I've been trying to do for 5 years. So, John, thanks for being a great role model. One, but two, what do you do when those lakes start to? I'm working it hard here, buddy. What do you do when those lakes start to turn over? One. And then we'll get to the next question after that.
Oh, well, first thing we gotta look at is thermoclines are gonna form, and that's what happens in lakes before any turnover. So one of the things I'll tell you is when you're walleye fishing, if you're fishing a deep lake, pick a lake that, let's say you got 60 feet of water. You're going to find a thermocline, and you'll be able to see that on your sonar.
Yeah, it looks
all
like
of a sudden you'll
haze,
see, a black haze there. You're going to find the majority of your walleyes are going to be just above that thermocline. So let's take I'll give you guys a quick story. Down in Bull Shoals, Arkansas, back in, I want to say it was 2008, we had a tournament down there that it was one of the easiest tournaments to ever find those walleyes. And I'll tell you why. The thermocline formed. The thermocline ran right into the points on the shorelines at 18 feet of water, and all you had to do was drive the points up in about 17 feet of water, and you'd see walleyes stacked up everywhere. So the first thing before we even worry about that turnover is on those lakes that are going to turn over, there's going to be a thermocline. Yep. Look for your walleyes just above it or at the thermocline. It's going to make your life a lot easier.
They won't be below it, will they?
They're not going to go below it. No, that's going to be for your coldest water species that are going to go down below it. Don't even think about going down there for your walleyes. And what's really neat about that, Boomer, is it's going to take away a whole bunch of the water column. It's going to make it a lot easier to find them. Yeah. And I always say the more water you can eliminate, the easier it is to find fish.
That makes sense,
So you get to eliminate that whole bottom half of the water column. As far as turnover, we're not going to see a lot of that till fall. Right now, I'm just going to worry about trying to keep up with those fish. If you're in a thermocline situation, they're going to stay, at it or above it. And in lakes that aren't going to get that thermocline, don't worry about it. Just chase them around on that mid-lake structure. There's going to be some great mid-lake fishing coming up.
Why would some lakes
have a great July?
Why would some lakes get a thermal, whatever you call it, and some don't?
It's due to depth and different oxygen levels. And I'm not a scientist. Look at me, Stu.
I can figure
That's
that out.
not me. But, and I can't tell you all of that story for sure. What I do know, though, is it's really easy to spot them. If you got a deep style lake that's going to stay colder, and you're going to find that thermocline on your graph.
That's a great tip.
I'm glad you said that, John, because one of the things I'm not, Boomer's a lot more sophisticated when it comes to these theories and this fish talk. And like I said, I'm still a guy that tosses from the shore, look for a boat that I can jump into, and just do what everybody else is doing. But one of the things I like, so I subscribe to Fish Ed TV on YouTube. You just go there, you find Fish Ed TV, punch it in, or John Thielen, Thelen. And then come up and then you hit subscribe, and it just brings up every time you're on YouTube, or you'll get some emails saying Fish Ed TV has posted some new ones. You also have the show on Fox Sports North, and that's on when?
That'll start again October 3rd.
Okay.
And it'll run for 26 weeks. We're on 6 months a year, and right now we're running all over the countryside, getting some great episodes filmed. I'm really excited for this year. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think viewers are really
Here's what I love about your YouTube, subscribing to that. You go on there and he breaks it down. It's that simple. Panfish, walleye, Lindy rigging, the whole thing. And you don't even have to watch his pretty mug. Like sometimes I'll just turn it on the old computer and then just have it playing while I'm doing a couple other things around the house and just listening to it, but you don't talk over everybody's head.
Yeah, but you guys are radio guys.
Well, that's true. I'm a listener, but But, you don't talk over everybody's head. You give us simple, short little things that we don't need to know the science behind what you just talked about. We just need to know that we need to be above that thermal line.
Well, and, I'll tell you, there were years that I tried to get more scientific about my fishing. I look back in some of the tournament years when I was fishing, and some of my toughest years were when I was trying to just be too precise, trying to do too much. My best years, it was funny. I remember a conversation distinctly where a friend of mine and I were talking about just simplifying my fishing. And I talk about that in all the seminars I do now. Yep. I have simplified my fishing. In those last few years on the pro circuits, I did a lot better by just going back to what I knew how to do. I knew how to fish live bait. I grew up fishing Mille Lacs Lake. My dad taught me how to pull Lindy rigs. Well, I went back to just fishing live bait and doing that kind of thing, and it made things a lot easier for me. Yeah. I caught more fish. You don't have to do all of these super, super in-depth things.
Right.
And that's what we try to do with Fish Ed, is just show you what it's going to take to catch fish today. Yeah. Now, is there always another little tip or trick? Absolutely, and you're going to find those daily, but don't feel like you're not going to catch fish if you're not doing every single thing perfect.
Right. All right, guys, let's take a little break here. We're not letting you go anywhere. John Thielen, host of Fish Ed TV. We're going to come back, talk about the Lindy Little Guy and some more fishing tips on Ticket Outdoors.
Ticket Outdoors on 105 The Ticket.
Well, Minnesota fishing season is officially here, and it's time to hit your favorite lakes and fishing spots. Boomer here with the Ticket Outdoors, and I want to thank Alumacraft for being our official boat sponsor. I just got off the water with my Alumacraft T-Pro, and boy, do I love the space, storage, and sweet ride on the water. I love Alumacraft because they're made right here in Minnesota, and they're simply the best aluminum boat on the market. For more about Alumacraft, visit your local dealer or go to alumacraft.com.
There are reasons they're called the silent sports. No engines, no fumes, no wakes. Just the sound of a paddle blade knifing through the water. And maybe the occasional call of a loon who's willing to share a lake. Glide across your favorite water this summer with a canoe, kayak, or stand-up paddleboard. Mills Fleet Farm has them all. This year, really get on the water with Mills Fleet Farm.
If you love the outdoors, then you probably have a truck that you love too. Custom Truck Accessories can help protect your truck from the rigors of outdoor activities. They have custom seat covers and floor mats to protect against the mud and dirt from the field. Toppers and tonneau covers to protect your gear. If you're a truck guy, you'll appreciate the knowledge and experience of the Custom Truck Accessories crew. Visit CustomTruckAccess.com or stop by their store to see what a difference being family-owned can make for you.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
Boy, you are good at reading those commercials. You know what? I
thought I was falling asleep during that.
I want to thank you for the last year and a half for being a role model to me.
Oh, boy.
In my quest to be a radio star.
Can't I just kiss some hiney without getting some hiney?
No. The difference here is he's not kissing any hiney.
That's true. That is true.
You don't get any more sarcastic than that.
If you turn the corner too quick, Zep, he'll break his nose. So next one.
Nobody's ever going to accuse.
Thielen got it. Fine.
No one is ever going to accuse the wild card of kissing butt.
Oh,
it's the only radio program I've ever worked on, and it's happened more than once, where one of the hosts tells the guest to shut up.
God, you talk more than I do. Shut up. Let me ask you a question.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, gang, we rerun this Sunday mornings from 6 to 8. You can catch the podcast if you're just jumping in and going, I missed 15 minutes of John Thielen's tips. Catch the podcast, 105theticket.com, usually up in the next day or two, and Sunday morning, 6 to 8. Thanks for joining us. John Thielen, host of Fish Ed TV. I mentioned I like to just go to YouTube, subscribe to Fish Ed TV, and go back and watch the videos before I go charging out of the house down to the lake on whichever morning. And also on Fox Sports North. Did we talk about that when it was on?
Yes.
Oh, it's coming back in October.
October 3rd, we'll start it back up, and 26 weeks. Ice fishing, open water, Saturday mornings.
Yeah.
And hey, one of the things, and I'm sure we'll talk again before we get to that point, but we've switched times. When we start October 3rd, we're going to be 8:30 in the morning, Saturday mornings on Fox North. Mm-hmm. And then come January, February, March, we're going to be 12:30 p.m. Okay, so right over the lunch hour.
John, what do you like doing more? Doing the TV or the old tournament series? You miss it?
I'll tell you what I used to say about tournament fishing versus guiding.
Yeah.
When I was a tournament fisherman, my job was to figure out how to catch fish and keep it a secret.
Yeah.
When I was guiding, my job was to figure out how to catch fish and then share it with people.
Yeah.
With TV, that's magnified. I love helping people catch fish. There's a lot of fun in watching people catch fish, and I really enjoy that. I love the involvement I get to have on the lure side with Lindy in helping create things. And we've got such a great team of guys that work on all this stuff. But I'll tell you what, it's just really neat when you drop a new lure down and it's catching fish, and you say to yourself, man, that guy in that boat next to me, he's going to be able to catch them on this.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of fun.
Let's talk about this legendary Lindy gear. I've got the little guy I'm holding right here. Not going to unwrap it till I get to the lake. Tell me about this one.
Well, that's a brand new one here that we brought out a couple years ago, and this has been one of those phenomenons where there's not a lot out there like it. What the little guy is it's a crawler harness, but it's got a crankbait style floating plastic body.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is that little body up in front of the night crawler is running, and it's actually attracting these fish just like a crankbait does. But here's what's really neat: you can run this thing at any speed, because if you think about a spinner, when you run a spinner, if you set that bottom bouncer down on the bottom and stop it, what does the spinner do? It falls down into the bottom.
Boom.
Well, with this little guy, you've got these fish following it a lot of times. Or there's just that trigger of starts and stops. The little guy actually floats.
Yeah.
So if I stop that bait, all of a sudden that thing stops and it floats up.
Yeah.
And it looks like a bait fish trying to get away.
I've got a darker color, some naturals, a purple and some green and blue in my little crank floater, little guy you call it. Do they come in some different colors?
Yeah, we got 11 different colors. We just brought out 4 new colors this year, and you can expect to hear a little bit more as we get closer to the big ICAST show out in Orlando here in a couple weeks.
Hey, Boomer, take a picture of this and put it on Facebook.
This is a pretty neat lure, and I'll tell you what, it just catches fish. No matter where I've gone with this thing, it catches fish.
That's the thing that always amazes me every time I go into Thorne Brothers or wherever, and there's a billion of them there, and you start looking around, and then you have plastics and cranks and spinners and Lindy's and the whole thing, and you sometimes get a little overwhelmed, and you think, well, but you guys, these aren't gimmicky. You really go out and you test these things. You come up with these things. If John Thielen, if you're going to put your name on it and get out there and advertise, you want it to work.
Well, absolutely. And we've got a great group of guys, like I was saying, that we're constantly working in the design process.
Right.
And we'll put these out to 6 or 7 guys on our pro staff at key locations. So places where you're going to go fish.
Yeah.
There's somebody testing these lures long before you ever see it on a store shelf. And we're making sure it catches fish, because ultimately we'd rather bring less stuff out, but make sure it's all catching fish day in and day out. And it takes a little bit of time to test this stuff. I mean, you can't just go out and say, well, I caught him today, it's a good lure.
It's my old tackle box theory. I mean, we can get these tackle boxes with, trays and trays of cranks and these and everything. By the time you get everything in there, I'm carrying a suitcase out there now. But you want to just boil it down. When I grab the lawn chair and the bucket, and I've got a small tackle box, I want about 7, 8 different things in there that I know are going to work in any condition or whatever fish I get into, along with all the little, obviously hooks and sinkers and everything else that comes with it. So,
what's just amazing is you think about the time and on the water and the innovation that it takes, to bring that to a Lindy rig.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just think about what you guys had to do to bring this to the table. And this is such a great subject for this time of year, too, because, those first breaks are going to be holding some fish. But, boy, I don't know what your sales pattern, John, is, but I can just imagine the Lindy rig sales are going to start popping here pretty soon as those walleyes start to go into the middle of that lake.
Yeah, and these lures that you guys are looking at here today, guys, these little guys, part of the reason that I wanted to, when you guys gave me the opportunity to come and talk about these lures today, part of the reason I wanted to bring this one was we're headed into the prime time of the year for these. And I'll tell you, they're selling as fast as we can hang them on pegs.
Yeah.
So, that's really neat, because here's what it tells you. I always say you can sell a whole bunch of lures the first time around, first time you hang them. Yeah. When you're selling them the second and third time they're being hung, it's because people are catching fish. And that's the neat thing. Right now, these things are hard to find. I mean, you can find them, but they're catching fish. People are buying them as fast as we get them hung on pegs. And like I say, we got some neat new news coming up here pretty soon in this same type of product line. There's just a great opportunity here. And here's the other thing about them. They're easy to fish. You tie on a bottom bouncer, you put this behind it, you drop it down, and you start trolling. You can go anywhere from 0.5 to 3 miles an hour. and just hang on, because when they hit it pretty vicious.
So you talked about tying on a bottom bouncer. Are you doing it right above the swivel here?
Yeah, what you want to do, you tie that bottom bouncer right to your main line,
right,
and then you just clip that swivel right to the bottom bouncer. And one thing I'll tell you is, just for kind of a putting it in the right neighborhood, try to get your line at a 45-degree angle. Now, I'll tell you that at 1 mile an hour, 1.5 ounce bottom bouncer is going to pretty much always put you at about a 45-degree angle.
Right.
If you're going to go faster than that, maybe you're a little bit deeper, it's a little harder to keep it at that 45-degree angle. That's when I'm going to go to a 2 ounce. But I will tell you, on Red Lake here earlier this spring, we were catching walleye after walleye on these little guys right after opener. I mean, this is an aggressive bait, and we're wailing on them. I'm using a 1/2 ounce bottom bouncer there and just running it way out behind the boat, and they're attacking it as fast as we can throw it out.
You know, John, one question I have about that, you talked about them attacking, is traditionally when you're running a Lindy rig or a live bait rig like something like this, it's typically different than a live bait, Zep. Like if you have a jig and a minnow, that walleye, you're going to feel that thump. Right. Sometimes you're going to feel that weight, but you're going to feel a thump. When you're running a Lindy rig like this, you might feel that little thump, or more often, at least what I experience, is you're going to feel some dead weight, and then you open the bail screw and you let it run for 20 seconds before they get a good hook set, right?
Yeah, my favorite thing to do,
With this type of setup, are they biting it at all a little different, John, or is it more that traditional Lindy rig bite?
Boomer, I'm glad you brought that up. With a Lindy rig, I'm always going to keep the line in my index finger, and I'm going to let it go. I'm going to count to 5, maybe 10, depending on how hard they hit it, tighten it up, and set the hook.
That's just fun.
With a spinner rig, now I might get hit, and all I'll do is I'll lay the rod tip back, and I'll play a little bit of tug of war with him, and then I'll set the hook.
Right.
With this little guy, here's one of the tricks. They hit this thing so viciously because that body up there is running like a crank.
Right.
That the minute you get hit, just set the hook.
Set the hook.
Just hang on. And now here's the other thing I'll tell you.
Yeah.
This is one of the things I think is really neat about this bait too. There's a lot of times I'll just put the rod in the rod holder. Yeah. You just turn around and the rod's doubled over. They'll hook themselves because they're hitting it so hard. And that takes a little bit of that, I'm worried about missing a fish, out of the equation. You can tie these things on and just start cruising.
That's fun.
It sounds like it might be for a walleye novice like myself. It might be a good one. I don't have to worry about letting it lead and run and when to set it. When it hits it, set it.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this. I promise you that this Lindy Little rig is going to be in the T-Pro this weekend when I'm fishing Gull. John, question for you. You know, I was going to talk tonight on the Lake Report about, a single harness versus a double harness. Are all the little rigs, are they all double harness? I take it?
Yeah, the little guy rigs are all a 2-hook crawler harness. But here's the thing. If you want to fish a leech on that thing, just clip a hook off.
Yeah.
And it's that easy.
Yes.
Now, here's what I'll tell you, though. Remember, we're headed into that time of year now where we've had a couple bug hatches. I'm not saying the fish aren't still biting leeches, but crawlers, these next couple weeks, boy, I'll tell you what, crawlers are going to be your key out there walleye fishing as these fish get deep. And I look at a lot of that based on bug hatches.
Yep.
And as these bug hatches are happening, there's more and more of a larva base being fed on. And this is going to just be a deadly rig for you. And that's why I brought him in right now, because this is that time of year. Now, don't get me wrong. We were fishing them, like I was saying, the week after opener on red. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, right now, these things are just going to be deadly everywhere.
So, John, as I'm holding this Lindy Little rig, and this is out in stores right now, right?
Absolutely.
It looks like, it's a 2 harness. It's got almost like this floating crank without hooks. It's got some beads underneath it, which is going to create some pretty cool action that the bite's going to be more aggressive than your traditional Lindy rig setup. So you set the hook fairly quick. John, I just want to ask the obvious question here, because I've had this question asked to me at different sports shows, is when they're running a 2-hook harness, I've had people kind of pull you to the side and be like, hey, Boomer, how do you do a worm on a double? Because a lot of people don't want to ask, right? They feel embarrassed. So, John, why not ask the man himself who brought the lure how you recommend to put a worm on this thing?
And it's funny you asked that, Boomer, because we actually did a whole piece on it in a TV show that's going to air this coming year, because it does make a difference how you hook that night crawler.
Yes.
What I want to do is with that front hook, I want to go right through his nose, and I'm talking almost just skinning his nose, because if you let a little bit hang around, what'll happen is once you get in the water and that crawler stretches out a little bit, his nose will stretch out a little bit too, and that'll make him twirl a lot of times. So you don't want that to happen. So I just skin him right through the nose, but then I actually turn that hook backwards. And I thread it on the back one. But here's the biggest key. Make sure you have some slack line in that harness. once the crawler's hooked with both hooks. If you do it straight and you have the line straight right along with the crawler, when the crawler gets in the water, here's what's going to happen. He's going to try to stretch out, and he's not going to be able to, or he's going to curl up. He's going to go one way or another. So you want to have some slack in between them. Now, one other tip I'm going to give you with this bait, because you've got that body up in front and it's running and bites, pinch your crawler off. Don't run that whole crawler. If you go out and all of a sudden you're getting hit, but you're missing the fish, just leave 1 inch of crawler behind that second hook.
Right.
Pinch it off, because you've got so much bait down there between the body and that crawler already, you don't need the whole crawler. So go out there, give it a shot with the whole crawler. I'm not telling you that it won't work.
Don't let them take that tail for free.
But if they're eating that tail consistently, just start pinching it off.
Yeah. You know, I know we're talking about the Lindy Lil rig here, but, you know, I don't know how much time we got left, Zepp.
A minute, but let's run it. Yeah,
all right.
Go ahead.
One of the things that I like about this is the aggressive action with this on there. I don't even know what you call this, John. I mean, what the appropriate name for this?
I call it the little guy.
The little guy with the little guy, right?
That's the little guy.
It almost looks like a little crank, right? Without the trebles.
I was going to say, why is the bass guy in me want to put a hook on that thing?
That'd be awesome. But with this type of setup, what I'm going to talk about this later, and I'll reiterate it. But what type of rod do you recommend using on something like this, like a medium light?
No,
medium,
you know, guys, I'm using a medium action rod, 7-footer, 7.5.
A fast action on the tip, or what do you?
And here's what I tell everybody: when it comes to rods and reels, you can go to any major retailer nowadays, and there are so many great options. Yeah. It's just be looking at something with a medium action. I'm a little bit heavier on the action than I am when I'm Lindy rigging. When I'm Lindy rigging, I'm a medium light, because I need to feel that bite more and let the line go. With a vicious hit you're going to get here, a medium action 7-foot rod.
Yeah.
Could you run something like this on a planer board?
Oh, absolutely. Sure. You know, we haven't seen the need to. Yeah. I haven't had to worry about it. Yeah. And what that usually tells me is we're not fishing spooky fish, or they're just that aggressive and coming after this bait.
And for our listeners out there, you know, a planer board, it looks just basically like a rectangle box. What is it? Maybe, John, 8 inches long by maybe 3 inches wide, and you run it out there. And what it does is it extends your rod and the length of your line, maybe, 20 yards, 30 yards away from the boat if you're fishing some spooky fish. John, so we talked about, you're using a medium rod with something like this, and you're going to be using night crawlers right now. When you're fishing lakes like Mille Lacs that are really high vis, some people are running maybe a 6-foot to maybe I've even heard a 12-foot lead between where their Lindy rig is and where the hooks are trailing it. Is that going to be the same logic with something like this, or is it a different ball game because of how aggressive the little guy is?
I'd say it's a different ball game, and here's why, Boomer. When we're live bait rigging and actually Lindy rigging, what we're trying to do is fool that walleye into believing it's the real thing, that it's a leech just swimming on his own, or it's a crawler that's straying along, or a minnow that's swimming along. With this little guy, we're not trying to fool him. We're trying to trigger a strike. So just like with a crankbait, it's not so important. We're moving faster. And the other thing I'll tell you, that's tied out a 14-pound fluorocarbon. Okay. So we are keeping it as invisible as possible, but I'll tell you what, we're drawing reaction strikes with this thing. We're getting fish that are ready to feed. They're turning, they're looking at it, and they're attacking.
That gets you kind of excited, doesn't it, to get out there and get this thing in the water?
I tell you what, I get jacked, but, guys, I want to spend maybe just a minute or two to congratulate John and talk a little bit about the Fish Ed TV stuff, too, because, John, you've got 2 Telly Awards. Can you tell our listeners about that before we let you go?
Yeah, we were fortunate enough this year that reception to the TV show was great, and for that we thank all the viewers. It's really neat to be able to go out and build a show based around teaching people to fish, and we're really excited for season 2. And there's a whole team of people behind me that you don't see that are making this thing really good. I go out and I just got to catch a few fish, talk a little bit about it. But this group of people out there is helping us build a great show, and I really appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to everybody being able to see season 2. We've got some great stuff already shot. We got a little bit more to do yet, and We're going to have more camera angles. We got just a lot of really cool stuff coming up. And I invite all of your guys' listeners to please take the time to watch the show. Check it out on YouTube throughout the summer months. You get some current information that way. Yeah. We put that out within a week of when we film it. But come October 3rd, when that cabin fever starts and you got 26 weeks of hanging around before you can get back out in the spring, check out Fishhead TV.
John, one last thing, and I think then before we got to let you go, is you're speaking of cameraman. I had the pleasure of fishing with your camera guy at the photo shoot for Alumacraft up there on Federal Dam, and what a classic individual. And we were talking a little bit. I want to stress to our listeners, one of the cool things I like about Fishhead TV is not just the education piece and the content that you guys do on Fox, but, social media has been so popular, Zepp and Stu, because of the fact that it's real time, it's transparent information. Everyone wants to know where the bite is now, what's working, what's the weather pattern going to be. And you guys actually do 2 shows every time they're out there filming on the water. They'll film for the TV show, which will air about a year later, but they'll also do a cut or edit a show for YouTube, right, John? That is up there within how long? And then tell our listeners how they can subscribe to it.
Sure.
Find you guys in social media and all that good stuff before we let you go.
Sure. Well, Fishhead Internet is filmed absolutely separately from Fishhead TV. And so you're not seeing the same footage. It's a whole new day on the water. And what we do is we try to shorten it up a little bit. We keep it 6 to 8 minutes, and it's a little bit more just flat out a little bit more direct, down and dirty. Let's just get the information out there. Here's how you find them. Here's where we're finding them. And here's how we're catching them. And if you go do the same thing this week, you should be able to get them as well. And we get that thing out within about 5 days of when I shoot it. So if I shoot it on Monday, you're going to see it by Friday or Saturday.
Right, but
so it's going to keep that information pretty current.
I think your show would be much more effective if you actually had taught like a left-handed Pollock on your show how to catch these things, and so
you know anyone?
I'm one of them. I'm left-handed. I'm Polish.
Let's not downplay Stu. Last year on Walleye Opener, not this year, but last year we were up at Geiger's and the folks in Bowstring, and guess who caught the first walleye in the Alumacraft?
I caught a lot of walleye.
He caught a lot. He's a lucky left-handed Pollock. All right.
And keep in mind, John, every time you take the wild card, Stu out for a fishing trip, you get to log that as a charity. Because he is a left-handed Pollock. John Thielen, host of Fishhead TV, that first Saturday in October. It's going to return to Fox Sports North. The first show is 10:30 a.m. that first Saturday.
8:30 a.m. Oh. That fourth quarter, October through the end of December, is going to be 8:30 a.m.
Okay, I understand.
And then we'll go to 12:30, right over the lunch hour from January through March.
And those are Saturdays,
we'll talk
right?
again
Saturday morning, yeah.
That's
Saturdays.
a perfect cup of coffee, read the morning paper, and watch Fishhead TV at the same time.
And John, we'll have you back to talk about that again, Fishhead TV. Until you get there, you'll find them on YouTube. Go ahead and click and find your favorite topic, walleye, panfish, and give it a click. John, thank you so much for coming in to Ticket Outdoors.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, John.
Can't wait to get the little guy in the water, and we're going to talk big game. The big Alaska hotshot, Billy Moles, went down to New Zealand, and this time he wasn't guiding.
Make sure you tune in me, Brandon Tierney, along with my partner, Ziggy Barber, weekday mornings at 8. Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
The Saturday night game of the week, St. Paul's Saints baseball on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
Charging hard, he leaves his feet in dodge to make the catch.
Our broadcast start with Live from Lower Town with Pete Wagner and Sean Aronson. We talk Saints, baseball, and more starting at 5 p.m. Then the Saints pregame show starts at 6:45 p.m., followed by play-by-play from Sean.
Drilled high and deep left field. Well hit. Way back. Goodbye.
Every Saturday Saints home game on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
Gear up for the 4th at Mills Fleet Farm. Proudly wave Old Glory with an Olympus flag set or flag, just $4.99. Patriotic folding armchairs are on sale, only $8.99. The picnic buffet will look great on a 6-foot straight or center folding table. Your choice, $36.99. And you can't have a picnic without Frito-Lay snacks. Lay's chips, Tostitos, rolled gold pretzels. Get 5 bags for just $10 at Mills Fleet Farm.
We love it.
This is your 105 The Ticket weather from Nature's Fury. Going to be clear for quite a while. Tonight, low of 59. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, high of 80. Friday, the start of your long holiday weekend, going to be warm and sunny, 84. Saturday, the 4th of July, even better, 86 for a high. Sunday, your first chance of thunderstorms probably in the afternoon, but a high of 87. Going to be warm and steamy this weekend. This weather update is brought to you by Nature's Fury. You can find Nature's Fury at your local Cub Foods and select holiday stores.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
Just wrapping up our goodbyes. We actually had John Thielen putting a diagram together for Stru over there, and I was on my tiptoes looking over the console here to see how he was showing you how to
I'll teach you. I'll take you. It'll be a Fish Stru TV or something, but this man knows what he's doing, John Thielen.
He's got some passion behind him and speaks at such a right level. You know what I mean? A right level for all of us to understand.
That's why I really do enjoy clicking on his YouTube videos.
I don't care if he catches fish or not. He's a nice man, and that's most important here. But
good guy.
Guy knows his stuff.
John Thielen. We'll have him back again before October 3rd on Fox Sports North when Fishhead TV comes back to TV. Billy Moles, the modern-day mountain man, our buddy, goes back to the beginning of the show.
Billy.
Now, Billy, we've gotten to know him, Billy, the modern-day mountain man, Billy Moles Adventures. That's MOLLS.adventures.com, and his DVD series, and which I really enjoy. But this time, last time we talked to Billy, he was headed to New Zealand.
That's right.
To do a little hunting himself.
So tonight we're going to interview him as a guest like we've never had him on before. We don't give a rat's ass about Billy Moles Productions. We want to talk about hunting in New Zealand. So give it a shot there, buddy.
Well, Billy, there's your typical wild
Hey, welcome to the Ticket Outdoors, Billy Moles.
Well, geez, thanks for the warm welcome there, guys.
He was being too nice to the previous guest, Billy, so he had to tear into you to get back in Stru mode.
I got to make it up.
I'm an easy target. I can take it. How you guys doing this evening?
Doing real good.
Awesome.
You're home, relaxing?
I am. I'm home. Yep. We got home, I think, Friday, so home for a few months before I head north. But, yeah, it was a great trip.
Now, Billy, for our listeners, last we spoke to you, you were headed down to New Zealand to do some hunting yourself, and we're all trying to figure out what they have in New Zealand. I mean, it's like, could be land of the lost for us up here. We know they have some stag down there and some different species you talked about. How long were you down in New Zealand?
I was down there for 4 weeks, and I was hunting. The first week I did a backpack hunt for Himalayan tar. So these were introduced.
Gotta write that down.
I think that's heroin.
Himalayan mountains, which I think around Nepal, China.
Hold on,
that's
Billy.
where the Himalayan tar originates.
What's a tar?
What is a Himalayan tar? It sounds like a drug.
Well, maybe you might start something there, Boomer. I don't know. But, it's kind of like our mountain goat. It's about half the size. It's about 200 pounds live weight. It's dark, almost black. And the bulls, as they get mature, they get this really long hair, and then they can stick it straight out. Actually, they can stick the hair forward. It's kind of like they really look like a bantam rooster when I was hunting them. They were in the rut, and they stick out that hair on end, and then they stick their nose up just like a white-tailed deer. They have a long blue tongue that they stick in the air. So kind of looks like, reminds me of what Stru might look like in the rut.
We caught the wild card speechless.
I just got a perfect image in my head. Now, Billy, first of all, how long does it take to get down to New Zealand?
It took about 24 hours of flying from Minneapolis. The leg from L.A. to Auckland, which is the capital of New Zealand, that was a 12-hour flight. So all told, it was about a day, about 24 hours of travel.
Boy, that's a long time. That's just too damn far to go shoot an animal for me, man.
Do you get up the next morning and then just go hunting, or do you do some scouting, or what do you do?
Well, I went with some guys. They had a pretty good idea what they were doing. Some guys that I've met at shows and talked to. The hunting community is really pretty small. So I met some guys that were interested in starting to do backpack hunts in New Zealand because it's very unpopular. Most of the New Zealand hunting they do with helicopters. So they fly guys into the mountains with helicopters.
Sounds
fun. These guys wanted to get to some more inaccessible areas by backpack, which is the way, a young Kiwi hunter or a hardcore Kiwi hunter would do it himself. And so that's what we did, and it was a fantastic adventure.
For our guests who just tuned in on Ticket Outdoors 105 FM tonight, we have the famed Alaskan guide, Billy Moles. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook.com/The Ticket Outdoors. Billy, You know, you've done these amazing adventures that we all, you know, kind of live vicariously through you in Alaska. What made you choose New Zealand, of all places, to go to for 4 weeks?
I don't know. I guess it's just kind of some far-off exotic destination. After reading about it and seeing pictures, just seemed something unique. And to be quite honest, it looked a lot like Alaska, and it is a lot like Alaska. And I guess just something different. I really couldn't tell you why exactly, but yeah, I'd say probably 25 years ago, I probably kind of imagined maybe going, and the opportunity came up, so I sprang at it.
Hey, Billy, you haven't been in Alaska for the last couple of months or so, I'm guessing. Were you in as good a condition as you should have been for this trek?
No, actually, I wasn't. I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't figure it'd be any tougher than a sheep hunt was, a North American sheep hunt. So I didn't probably do quite enough preparation. My guide, he was a young, wiry thing. I hung in there all right, I guess. But yeah, it was more challenging than I thought. Basically, it took us 2 days of hiking just to get up to the level of the tar. Man. So all told, it was about 16 miles and then probably about 3,000 vertical feet.
I'll be in the helicopter if you need me.
I was kind of wishing for the helicopter. We watched them fly by, but it was basically, we were on the west side of the island, on the South Island, and on the west side they get 9 meters of rain a year.
Holy buckets!
1 meter of rain a year, so it was basically a rainforest.
Now, Billy, and to remind our listeners, you're on the other side of the equator down there in the southern hemisphere, so it's winter down there, but are you coastal? In other words, what was the weather like when you were down there?
Yeah, that spot, we basically left from the ocean, and so it was freezing. It probably got down to 20 degrees some of the nights once we got up on top. But yeah, it rained the whole first day we hiked in, so
cold and wet.
The days were short, so it was 8 hours of solid hiking and crawling up the mountain, and we were soaking wet when we set up our tent. The next day was pouring down rain, so we basically just kind of weathered it out. We couldn't see, and then the third day we just started climbing again.
Boy, you know.
We get up to the top where we could see some tar, and then we kind of got on some, looked some over. Well, the rainwater washed by so fast we couldn't find any springs. So yeah, we ended up hiking for hours just to find water once we were up on top. So eventually, we finally found a good tar and we made a good shot. And actually, I shot a nanny as well to eat. It's a little bit different. They just leave all the meat there.
Heard that name at a club. I'm sorry.
They leave. What do you mean they leave the meat?
They don't take it out. The bull tar, they're pretty rank when they're in the rut. And the New Zealand government, there's no hunting licenses, no nothing. They're more concerned about the indigenous plant life because there's no indigenous mammals to New Zealand outside of the bat.
Oh, so the Himalayan tar, thus its name Himalayan, obviously came from Asia. And so all of these mammals that you're down there hunting have all been brought into the island, and I imagine they do a number on the local plant life.
Yes, absolutely. So the New Zealand government, all they're worried about, they just kind of want to keep that indigenous plant life in check, and they only allow the tar to live in a certain area because they're very aggressive and very they reproduce at a real high rate, and they're really hard on the plant life. And so the government they patrol them. They literally patrol them with helicopters if they get outside of a certain corridor. It's my understanding, and I've heard from many guys, they'll shoot them out of helicopters just to eradicate them.
Hey, let's take a little break here. Billy Moles, modern-day mountain man, Billy Moles Adventures. But we're not talking Alaska. We're talking New Zealand, a whole different kind of trip. So far, he's blasted a Himalayan tar. We'll hear about what else he hunted in New Zealand when we come back with Ticket Outdoors.
This is Zach Levine of the Minnesota Timberwolves. You're listening to Sports Radio 105 The Ticket.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, only on 105 The Ticket.
Joey Logano just screens out into the lead. McMurray's blocking the second. Matt Kenseth and Kevin Harvick side by side for third.
A 4th of July weekend tradition. Daytona International Speedway under the lights. The Coke Zero 400 is Sunday night starting at 5:30.
That's the battle for the lead in turn one.
This is Brad Keselowski. This is Dale Earnhardt Jr. This is Jeff Gordon. This is Jimmy Johnson. This is Kevin Harvick.
Your home for NASCAR in the Twin Cities is Sports Radio 105 The Ticket.
Hi, I'm Marsh Hallberg from Hallberg Criminal Defense. Well, it's time to celebrate the 4th of July. Besides your neighbor firing off the fireworks you snuck over from Wisconsin, the 4th means visits to the lake cabin, picnics, and drinking. Unfortunately, too much alcohol puts people in a position where a lapse in judgment has them facing a DWI or other criminal charges. If you or someone you know is in trouble with the law, please call us at 612-DEFENSE. Our firm is the largest and most experienced criminal defense law firm in the state of Minnesota. Hallberg Criminal Defense. Defense with a difference. 612-DEFENSE.
From the Mills Fleet Farm Studios, WGDX Lakeville, WRXP Cambridge, WGBZ Eden Prairie, a Cumulus station.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 877-735-7485 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast. Affordable. Operators are waiting at 877-735-7485 to take your call now. Call 877-735-7485. That's 877-735-7485. Again, 877-735-7485.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
All right, well, we're getting settled back in. Billy Moles, our guest. I want to remind you, summer is here, and whether you're going on a road trip or just going to the store, you're going to need a great set of tires. During Mills Fleet Farm Destination Summer Drive event, you're going to get up to a $70 prepaid card when you purchase a new set of 4 qualifying Cooper tires. So thank you, Mills Fleet Farm, and
don't forget, folks, it's not too late to go pick up a boat. We want to thank Dan Southside Marine for being our headline sponsor and being an awesome partner of Ticket Outdoors, and the boys and girls down in St. Peter, Minnesota, Alumacraft, the official boat of the Ticket Outdoors. I'll have that Tournament Pro 195 on Gull Lake this July 4th weekend. And Lakes Trading Company, if you're looking to go sight in the rifle, you want to do a competition, we had them that
right.
3-gun shoot, or you want to learn more about conceal and carry, visit the folks at Lakes Trading Company. And if you need to get some new rail boards or something for your truck or pimp it out for hunting and fishing season, go visit the fine folks at Custom Truck and Accessories.
Don't forget, Custom Truck and Accessories right up 65 has their truck show and big swap meet every Wednesday night. It's a beautiful evening. Nice, cool, low humidity, and I'm sure it's going strong up there. We've got another hour and plus of daylight. Billy Moles, the modern-day mountain man, fresh back from his trip to New Zealand, recovering, relaxing over in Wisconsin. So when we went to break, you shot yourself a Himalayan gar, which is their version, a weird alien version of our mountain goat, I guess.
Call it TAR, right? T-A-R or G-A-R? T.
T-A-R. The gar would be the
H-R. You guys might spell it different in Minnesota, though. I don't know.
So, go ahead, Boom.
Billy, one question. You're hunting a goat, right? And the only thing that I have close to that would be chasing speed goats or chasing antelope out in Wyoming. I go out there out west. Yeah. And typically when you're out there in Medicine Bow, Wyoming, it's a 300-400 yard shot, and it's a long shot to shoot them. Is that the kind of same spot and stock strategy you're doing on those goats out in New Zealand?
Yeah, yep. These are pretty well right up in the mountain peaks. I mean, way up high in the snaggy and craggy. So sometimes it's long shots. Definitely not prairies like you'd be hunting mountain or antelope. But yeah, I think I shot mine at about 220 yards. I was with a couple other guys after I got done with my hunt. We moved to a different area, and we started hunting with a helicopter outfitter, or a guy, that's how he primarily gets into the country. And so then the clients, some of my Alaskan clients, I just tagged along with them and was filming. And I had one hunter, he shot his tar at 650 yards.
Wow.
We worked in on these tar. They ended up winding us. Actually, we didn't know they were there. And the tar winded us, took off here across the mountain. And the hunter was set up. I've hunted with him. Actually, he's my neighbor. And he'd been practicing a lot in long-range shooting. He missed his first shot. And, poleaxed him, cone stole stone dead at 650 yards the second shot.
650 yards. That's
Zep just picked up a bunch of pictures of the tar, the Himalayan tar. That's one hell of a interesting looking animal.
Any trophies? I mean, I'm looking at the rack. They curl back. It's a little different than a mountain, somewhere between a mountain goat and a ram, I guess.
Yep. They're about a little bit longer than a mountain goat. Yeah, they'll get like a big one that's 12 inches, 12 to 14 inches is a big bull, and then the base will be about 9 inches in diameter at the base.
A bit like an antelope, then, if you get your big 14 inches. Sure.
Yeah, hey, Billy, we've had an opportunity to see a lot of your videos from when hunting in Alaska, and some of your stalks, whether it's bighorn sheep or whatever, they're 6, 7, 8, 10 hours sometimes, and it's such a challenge and so much work involved. Was the same kind of challenge here, or did you just see them and here we go?
Well, with the helicopter, for me, I don't know. I guess some might say I've been called a Puritan before, and for those who maybe don't know, I'm kind of a purist of hunting. I think, if that makes any sense, not trying to put myself on a pedestal or anything, but I don't know, I've done enough hunting, and for me, the only things that really turn my crank are the ones that I enjoy the most are the ones that I worked hardest at. So that tar where we ran out of water and we worked so hard and we were, wondering, man, can we even survive up another night on the mountain up here? That's the kind of stuff that I enjoy. Now, it was unique doing this helicopter hunt. I mean, we'd fly in on a helicopter, land on top of the mountain, and literally instantly start hunting. There's no laws against that whatsoever in Alaska. You couldn't start hunting until the following day.
Right.
So, I mean, we were going up there, landing on the mountain, shooting 2 bull tar, getting flown off the same day, bringing back the head and the skin, and, going to the bar and having a drink and having dinner and toasting to our success. So it was very, very different for me. But I think that's part of the reason why you go to different places to experience a different culture, whether it be just a civil culture or a hunting culture. And yeah, it was really neat, and I'm certainly glad that I did it.
Billy, I don't know this because I've never hunted, and maybe Zepp from your military days would know, or Stru, is the high altitude, shooting in high altitudes. I mean, I've hunted, the most highest altitude I've hunted in is maybe, I don't know, 8,000 feet when I was in Medicine Bow, but nothing.
Zepp he shot high a few times, but I'm not sure.
Greenleaf, Sergeant, but I mean, what does that high altitude do to the ballistics when you're shooting your rifle out there?
I'm definitely not I'm no long range expert by any stretch, but I do know the air gets thinner, so there's less resistance. So that certainly does affect it. And I think, I've never really, I guess I've guided a little bit out west. That's not when everybody was doing long range shooting. So I think as long as you're probably, below, let's say 6, 7, 8,000 feet, I don't think there's too much issue. Again, I'm not an expert, but I know once you start getting, 10,000 feet and higher, and you're shooting, several hundred yards, there's definitely factors at play.
That's a good question.
With long-range shooting.
And to give our listeners some perspective, there's a thing called the tree line. There's a line of altitude the trees don't grow over, and it varies, and I don't know how it is in the southern hemisphere down in New Zealand, but out in, or in Alaska, because I've never been there, but I spent some time hunting in Montana and Wyoming and skiing out there, and typically the tree line somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000 feet. You get up over top of that, and that's where you see the top of the mountains that are bald. You're above the tree line. That's when your air really starts to thin out, but I've never done any shooting at that altitude. So like Billy, I don't really know how that would affect the shot. Not so much over there, and I've certainly never taken a shot at anything 650 yards away.
Yeah,
that's
really
crazy. I mean, that's sniper shooting there.
Hey, Billy, your first day when you're taking this trip and you're going through all the rain and going up the mountain, it's raining, it's miserable. Did you ever have second thoughts like, what in God's name am I doing here?
I think, I don't know if I've ever had a hunt there or in Alaska where I've ever not thought that.
Yeah.
And strangely, I don't know that I'd ever really a hunt wouldn't trip my trigger if I didn't think that at some point.
There you go. Yeah.
Billy, you mentioned the military. When I was in the military, we knew guys like Billy. We called them special forces. There were guys that just had, where the rest of us went, nah, I don't want to do that. Those guys went, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I want to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what cuts them apart. That's why you watch the modern day mountain man. And I know I keep going back to your DVD series, but I am legitimately a fan. And it's not a highlight show. You're going along on the hunt. I seriously watch them sometimes and start getting a little short of breath just watching them, because you go along for the day-to-day, the entire hunt. You feel like you're there with it. Sorry, Boom.
I was just going to ask we talked about the tar that Billy shot, and I don't know how much time we got left, but
we've got a good 5 minutes.
Good 5 minutes. Billy, what else did you hunt?
Yeah, that's right.
You got 3 other species, right?
Yeah, well, that's all I hunted was a tar, and then I spent about 2.5 weeks with some other clients who I've guided in Alaska. So I was just tagging along and filming them. I couldn't afford the helicopter rides, to be quite honest. So I got to tag along with a video camera, but it was cool, and I enjoy that because then I can, kind of like what I do with my Alaska videos, I can kind of showcase and show others what it's like. But we shot a few other tar. So this was 3 different hunters that I was with, a guy and his lady friend from Des Moines, and then another cheesehead here. So they shot 3 tar, a fallow deer, a red stag, and a chamois, or a chamois, which comes from the Swiss Alps.
Oh, really?
Hey, Billy, for the average guy, what would this trip cost?
The backpack hunt that I did, that's kind of pretty bare bones. I did it for promotion, so I'm going to produce a video and then help the outfitter promote it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a freebie trip for me. But there you'd be looking at like $4,000 for that trip.
Yeah.
And then most of these lodge hunts, where you're getting into a lodge and then you're flying out with helicopters for various species. There, depending on what you shoot, you're looking at anywhere from $8,000 up to $20,000 if you start shooting 3-4 species.
Billy, putting Billy Mole's adventures and your bias aside for a minute, what's the more challenging hunt, Alaska or New Zealand?
That backpack tar hunt that I did was pretty challenging. Once we got up on top, there was a lot of tar. The guy that I was with, he knew where to go.
I will say
that didn't have to do anything with me. But
however, getting out of there, hiking out of there, which is always the other half of the hunt, you're not packing meat out.
Yeah, yep. It was still a challenge. The mountains are unbelievably steep. It's wet. It's thick. So basically, we were hiking to get up to the tar. We basically hiked for 10 hours of just straight up a mountain where sometimes you couldn't see your hand in front of you. So it was kind of a mental battle at that point. All of a sudden, like you said, once you get past tree line, ta-da, you can see everything.
Well, let's
and that's where the tar were.
Let's throw this out there. Do they have anything do they have any carnivores over there?
No, there's no predators.
Okay.
So that's
You're the predator.
The big thing. We're the only ones. So that's why, as far as the government is concerned, I could have went over there and shot 10 of them.
Right.
So, are they any good to eat?
Like I mentioned, I shot a nanny. We shot her for meat. They're much smaller. She was probably only 65 pounds.
So
we took the meat from her and we ate most of it and camped and packed the rest of it down. It was good. I wouldn't say it was great. I've had worse.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, seriously, I would say it was about like white-tailed deer meat. It wasn't nearly as good as a Dall sheep, but it was good. It was the first fresh meat that we had in 5 days, so we were all about it.
Yeah.
Billy, one last question I have before Stu or Zepp get theirs in, but in white-tailed deer, in Minnesota we commonly refer to, we got Boone and Crockett and the different scoring systems.
Pope and Young, yeah.
Pope and Young. Is there anything like that for Dall sheep or something like that for New Zealand?
Well, there is for Dall sheep, the North American stuff.
Yep.
And I don't know if they have a different score. SEI has some kind of scoring system for, their scoring system for tar and chamois and anything in the world for that matter. I believe a Boone and Crockett is strictly a North American thing, though.
Yeah. Okay.
And Pope and Young as well.
Now, you said you kind of got a tag along on this one. You get to do a little shooting and a little hiking, and I'm talking about shooting video. Is there anything else like this you want to do? Africa, Asia?
Yeah, I want to do Africa, Asia. I'd like to do Kyrgyzstan for like an ibex or something. I can't afford a Marco Polo, but I could tag along maybe and go see that. I'd love to just to experience a Cape buffalo hunt. I don't need to necessarily shoot one, but before I go, I got to mention we went wallaby hunting as well, which is basically like a kangaroo.
Yeah.
And so it was just like a scene out of Crocodile Dundee. There we were with the spotlight shooting wallabies. So they try to eradicate those. They eat the same amount of feed that 3 sheep would. And so these ranchers, they're like rabbits, literally.
Yeah.
And so we shot, I don't know, maybe a dozen or 15 of them one night in this one ranch. And the rancher was literally poisoning them nonstop to try to get rid of them.
Well, you know, we talked about prairie dogs out there. My dad wouldn't do the poisoning thing. We'd sit out in the back of a pickup with about 1,500 rounds of 22s and sit there and thin them out because they would literally decimate areas of the field. But Stru gave me the wrap it up, so I'm going to wrap it up. Now you are going to turn around and we're mentioned during the break there'll probably be a video in about a year or so of your New Zealand trip.
Right, yep.
Okay, and then you're going back to Alaska in August, right?
Yeah, actually this year I'm going to go a little early. So at the end of this month I'll be heading to Alaska. So yeah, I'll be up there for about 80 days and do a little hunting and go see God, go spend some time in God's country.
And I thought I had a great wife. Boy, you have one hell of a wife, I'll tell you, pal.
Well, Billy, we want to bother you again before you take off in August. Thanks for sharing some time and talking about New Zealand.
Hey, sounds good. Hey, you guys have a good force. Great talking to you again.
Welcome back, buddy.
Thanks, Billy.
The modern day mountain man, BillyMolesAdventures.com. And now Chris Carney, the more famous brother of Steve, when we come back on Ticket Outdoors.
Ticket Outdoors on 105 The Ticket. The Saturday night game of the week. St. Paul's Saints baseball on Sports Radio 105 The Ticket.
Charging hard. He leaves his feet in time to make the catch.
Our broadcast started with Live from Lower Town with Pete Wagner and Sean Aronson. We talk Saints, baseball, and more starting at 5 p.m. Then the Saints pregame show starts at 6:45 p.m., followed by play-by-play from Sean.
Drilled high and deep left field. Well hit. Way back. Goodbye.
Every Saturday Saints home game on Sports Radio 105 The Ticket.
Hi, this is Brian Zapp, and I bet by now someone has said something to you like, gosh, the state fair is only 7 weeks away. Or, you know, the days are getting shorter now. We all know it flies by, and that's why you'll find me heading for my favorite fishing hole every chance I get. And right now, the fishing in Minnesota is fantastic. Heading out doesn't have to be a complicated thing. Some of my best days are making a short drive to White Bear Lake, unfolding my chair, baiting the hook, and reeling in the smallies. And it's even easier and more convenient now to get your 2015 Minnesota fishing license. I did it online in about 5 minutes. All you do is visit licenses.dnr.state.mn.us. Again, that's licenses.dnr.state.mn.us. Select the license permit you want to buy, submit your payment, and print it out. Or if it's easier to remember, just search Minnesota Fishing License. The Minnesota Department of Natural Resource site will pop right up, and away you go. Plenty of good fishing left.
There are reasons they're called the silent sports. No engines, no fumes, no wakes. Just the sound of a paddle blade knifing through the water. And maybe the occasional call of a loon who's willing to share a lake. Glide across your favorite water this summer with a canoe, kayak, or stand-up paddleboard. Mills Fleet Farm has them all. This year, really get on the water with Mills Fleet Farm.
If you love the outdoors, then you probably have a truck that you love too. Custom Truck Accessories can help protect your truck from the rigors of outdoor activities. They have custom seat covers and floor mats to protect against the mud and dirt from the field. Toppers and tonneau covers to protect your gear. If you're a truck guy, you'll appreciate the knowledge and experience of the Custom Truck Accessories crew. Visit CustomTruckAccess.com or stop by their store to see what a difference being family-owned can make for you.
The Ticket Outdoors is proud to be a partner with Lakes Trading Company. Why? Because they kick. That's why. Guns to buy, guns to shoot, guns to rent, and the best prices on ammo around. We love Lakes Trading Company because they eat, sleep, and breathe guns just like us. Looking to get a permit to carry class or renew your old permit? Don't be disappointed by a cut-rate instructor. Lakes Trading Company has top-notch instructors and on-site range and meals provided. Lakes Trading Company, off 8th Street in Forest Lake or online at lakestradingco.com.
Steve Straczynski here of Coldwell Banker Burnett. It's time, my friend. If you're a Ticket Outdoors fan, then you're also a fan of hunting and fishing. I've got 29 years in real estate licensed in both Minnesota and Wisconsin, and I'll consider it a privilege to help you find that perfect lake home or the 40-acre piece of heaven that's hiding a Boone and Crockett right now. Hey, check me out on Facebook or email stru@stru.com. It's your money. Thanks. And thanks for having fun with us on the Ticket Outdoors.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
We're all wandering back in. Boomer is, is it potty break?
I had potty break for the Boomer,
Is he going out to check on his T-Pro?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, he's back. We got him.
She's shiny and the water is deep.
Welcome back to Ticket Outdoors, everybody. We rerun it Sunday morning, 6 to 8, on the podcast, ticketoutdoors.com. I want to thank Billy Moles and John Thielen as we drive on with Chris Carney. I'm not going to introduce him like that. I was going to say brother of Steve, but we don't.
No. Chris Carney is his old man. Chris Carney, are you on the air, my friend?
I am on the air.
All right, Chris Carney, go ahead. Tell us all about you. Go ahead. Boomer's got to say something.
Hey, Chris, it's Boomer. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. You?
We're doing good. We've never had anyone on the show that has as many nuts as you do. I just want to let you know that, okay, buddy?
And they're big.
And you've made a lot of money with your nuts. All right, we'll go back to being serious.
What they're talking about is Chris Carney for the last 30 years has owned a company called Simply Nuts and More. I'm guessing it was only Simply Nuts years ago, but they changed it to Simply Nuts and More. And it's been around a long, long time. And I love your commercials. They're funnier than hell. Who does those commercials with you?
Oh, we've got a team that does those usually mostly around Christmas time.
Yeah. Funny stuff. Good for you. Welcome. Thanks for being on the air.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah. So, Chris, now I've gotten to know you and Steve, and he's been a really awesome mentor to me for the last few years as I've gotten on this journey. But what's it like to Steve Carney's brother and always catching those fish that he's taking pictures of?
It's pretty cool. I've fished with him most of my life and have never really thought about where we were going, what we were using, and I said to myself, this looks pretty easy until I got on boat.
Yeah.
So now, Stu, you've got him on because there's a story where you worked over the old man, huh?
Well, I read Outdoor News last week, and Steve Carney and I have talked a couple of times, and he's a great. Yep. I have a lot of fun with him, but he was reaming you a new butthole with some of the things, all the times you screwed up in the boat, and all of a sudden you're the guy that caught the 29-inch walleye, and he said you were like a kid in a Simply Nuts store with how excited you were when you caught that fish. Tell us that story.
Well, I was actually out on Lake Independence for a good 3 hours, didn't have a bite, a pull, anything, and Steve was in his boat, I don't know, a couple of 100 yards away, and he looked and watched me struggling with this fish and trying to poke my net in there. I think I tried to net it 3-4 times and missed it, and he was wondering what was going on over there. And then he popped up, went over there, and looked at the monster. It was really cool.
No, 29-inch walleye, that's about, what's got to be 9-10 pounds, right?
Yeah, 9 pounds.
9 pounds. Now, and where did you catch this, Chris?
I was on the east side, kind of close to the boat access there. Just kind of got lucky.
Yeah, just kind of got lucky. And, there's no lucky with Steve involved. What
were you fishing, yeah?
Yeah.
What was I fishing? Just jig and minnow.
Just a good old jig and a minnow.
Yeah.
Now, are you as an avid outdoors person as Steve Carney is?
No, I don't think there's too many people that are committed as he is. But he's been hunting and fishing since he's been 7-8 years old. I was an avid golfer myself until I bought my first boat, and now I think I might golf 2-3 times a year compared to 20 or 30 times like I used to, and I'm out in my boat probably 3-4 times a week.
Now, a question for you. I remember when, and I love my dad to death and my family, but I remember about 5-7 years ago when I told him, hey, I think I'm going to walk away from doing some things and I want to be in the outdoors full time and try to make a living off that. And I remember they thought lobsters were growing out of my ears and I was pretty crazy. For our listeners, Chris, you got to live through that with your brother Steve. Do you remember that conversation with Steve and what that was like a long time ago?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was his passion from day one. And what I've learned from him, fishing through the years is pretty incredible. It's been a great ride.
Now, being his brother, does it get you like free beer or anything, or free tackle? Do you ever spiff you any of that fancy tackle of his? Any outdoor gear?
Yeah. Yeah, he does. I'm very well equipped.
I didn't know what you looked like till I saw the pictures in Outdoor News, Chris Carney. And you've showed up on his website. I forget it's Steve Carney Outdoors, I think, .com. Steve Carney Outdoors, or you can just punch in Steve Carney. You've been hanging around him for a while. You've got some photographs on there with some nice walleye stringers.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this dates back years and years, and I can remember the huge fish that we used to catch and would die for those fish today.
Yeah. Now, are you the older brother then?
I am the good-looking younger brother.
All right, the good-looking younger brother. What was he like growing up? You said he was just so focused on that. Was it, did it kind of drive you crazy that he was so focused on it?
Oh, yeah, that's all he did. I mean, that's all he did after school was hunting fish and the old wrist rockets, back in the day.
The wrist rockets, yeah.
Remember those? You used to hide them on the side.
I remember going out to my brother one time, and I pulled a rock back in my wrist rocket, and he was about 30 yards in front of me, and I go, "Hey, Chris." My brother's name is Chris as well. And Chris, my younger brother, not better looking though, and he wheeled around. And as he wheeled around, I took the old wrist rocket and I went, like several feet to the right of him, and pulled and let her loose, just to sort of scare him a little bit. But you know how rocks are not perfectly round, and this one was sort of saucer shaped, and I watched that thing just do a curveball right into his forehead. And I will say, though, like many times, he did not bust me on that one, but I'm sure I had to do something nice for him.
Well, that's when he started using marbles. Those are a lot more accurate.
Right, exactly. That's when I quit shooting wrist rockets at my brother.
Hey, Chris, other than the 29-inch, by the way, where is that 29-inch walleye? Did you release it and measure it, and are you going to mount it? What's happening there?
I'm going to mount it. Yep. I mean, that's kind of my first big fish, and I'm going to put it on the wall and remember it.
I forget if you mentioned, where were you fishing at?
Independence.
Oh, in Independence. Oh, heck, just a hop and a skip here from the city.
Yeah, I live out west, so it's real close. And,
do a lot of duck hunting out that way.
Yeah, yep. Steve does a lot of duck hunting out there.
Yeah, you bet he does. So now what do you, after you get something like that, do you even want to go fishing anymore?
Oh, absolutely. I used to think it was so easy to catch fish until I got my own boat, and boy, I'll tell you what, it's not an easy thing to do.
Where on Independence were you exactly?
On the east side.
Yeah, just over on the east side.
In front of the boat ramp. As Carney is squirming in his home right now in Medina. Yeah, your phone's going to be ringing, Chris.
Well, this is a pretty busy time.
I'll give you the coordinates.
We've got somebody inside the Carney camp now. Finally, do you get a chance to do much fishing with your brother this time of the year? Because he guides from everywhere from Itasca County, Vermilion, right here in the metro.
I do. We fish a lot. We probably fish a couple times a week.
Wow.
If not more.
I mean,
we like to fish. We like to fish during the week, and it's a lot less crowded and a lot less pressure.
Well, one of the cool things you got to love about that, Chris, is a big piece of respect I have for Steve is, he's willing to travel, but he's also one of those guys that does a better job than I does. He hits the Metro Lakes pretty hard, too. You talk about Independence, Tonka, some of these smaller lakes that people don't like to talk about.
Right.
But he works the Metro Lakes pretty hard, Chris, so it's not that far of a drive for you, too, to meet your brother.
Oh, yeah. There's several lakes within, 15 minutes of my house that are just gems that, a lot of people don't know about. And he puts his homework in. He does a lot of reading and walleye stocking and, seeing what's out there. And it's very fun getting on a new lake.
Well, Chris, I'll tell you what, since your brother gave you some sass in the Outdoor News, have you got a story you can share with us that he screwed up at one time in his career?
Well, one time I can remember we were out at Chamberlain fishing the Missouri River. And we got all psyched up, went out there the day before, went out to the boat launch. He put his boat in.
I can't wait.
Couldn't find his key. And he's actually having some service done on his boat, and he forgot to put the key in, so he's sitting at the dock. Put their boat, and there's no key.
I love it. That's a good place to
all
end
the way
right
to
there.
Missouri. That's a minor detail.
Awesome.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Chris Carney, thank you for taking some time. Congratulations on your 29-incher, and that'll make a fantastic mount for you there, buddy.
Hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Plenty of good fishing. Have fun the rest of this summer.
Simply Nuts and more, Chris Carney.
Simply Nuts and more.
Mr. Big Nuts.
All right. Speaking of big shots, Bill Shirk, 5-time Emmy Award-winning outdoor reporter and show host. Our guest next on Ticket Outdoors.
Listen to the Jim Rome Show weekdays at 11 a.m. on Sports Radio 105 The Ticket.
John Thielen here, host of Fish Ed TV. When I'm looking for that go-to bait for walleye fishing throughout the summer months, I look no further than the Lindy Lil Guy. The Lil Guy offers a cross between a Lindy rig, a crawler harness, and a crankbait. Its hard-floating body runs like a crankbait in front of a tandem hook crawler harness. The Lil Guy is equally deadly at Lindy rig and spinner speeds or pulled aggressively at crankbait speed. The Lindy Lil Guy is available in 11 distinct color patterns and can be found at your favorite retailer or at lindyfishingtackle.com.
Gear up for the 4th at Mills Fleet Farm. Proudly wave Old Glory with an Olympus flag set or flag, just $4.99. Patriotic folding armchairs are on sale, only $8.99. The picnic buffet will look great on a 6-foot straight or center folding table. Your choice, $36.99. And you can't have a picnic without Frito-Lay snacks. Lay's chips, Tostitos, rolled gold pretzels. Get 5 bags for just $10 at Mills Fleet Farm.
This is your 105 The Ticket weather from Nature's Fury. Going to be clear for quite a while. Tonight, low of 59. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, high of 80. Friday, the start of your long holiday weekend, going to be warm and sunny, 84. Saturday, the 4th of July, even better, 86 for a high. Sunday, your first chance of thunderstorms probably in the afternoon, but a high of 87. Going to be warm and steamy this weekend. This weather update is brought to you by Nature's Fury. You can find Nature's Fury at your local Cub Foods and select holiday stores.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
All right, welcome back. Yeah, we're getting that point in the show. Everybody's doing their thing. We're all wrapping off the air a little bit. Want to remind you, summer's here, and whether you're going on a road trip or just going to the store, you're going to need a great set of tires. During Mills Fleet Farm Destination Summer Drive event, you're going to get up to a $70 prepaid card when you purchase a new set of 4 qualifying Cooper tires. Our sponsor, Stru.
Oh, thank you very much, Dan Southside Marine. Danny Boy, thank you very much. Fleet Farm, of course, Alumacraft, Lakes Trading Company, Custom Truck Accessories, one of Zepp's favorite shops out there. So thanks to all you guys. Without you, we are nothing. Welcome to the Ticket Outdoors. Hit it, Zepp. Go, buddy.
I don't know, one of the first shows we did, Boomer, before you joined us, when Stru and I were just trying to figure out how to make a radio outdoor program work, Bill Shirk was one of our very first guests, and it just sort of relaxed me into it. When you listen to Bill, I went, okay, I want to do exactly what he does. Yes. I just need to start. Yes. I just need to start watching and listening to what this cat does. 5-time Emmy Award-winning outdoor reporter, show host, name a frequency in town. He's been on it.
He kind of does it all, doesn't he?
Absolutely. Due North Outdoors, a show that he does Thursday nights. Well, Bill, welcome to Ticket Outdoors. We got you up.
So it sounds like you guys have this radio gig figured out.
Hey, Bill, this is Steve Strusinski. I'll tell you what, I was looking up your bio, and I'm looking up Bill Shirk on the internet, and I said, my God, this guy's a lead singer for a punk rock who's called Active Dog. There's a Bill Shirk, lead singer for Active Dog, punk rock. Well, you are one talented young man.
Yeah. Doesn't mean the music's any good, right?
Oh, boy. Hey, Bill, it's Boomer. Thanks for joining the show tonight, man. Appreciate it.
Happy to be here. You know, it's kind of funny sitting here watching the sunset west of town. The Shirk family, we watched something kind of unusual tonight. Out on the prairie behind the house, we watched 2 sandhills get chased around by a fox.
Oh, fun.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
when was the last time you saw that?
How'd the fox do?
Bizarre.
How'd the fox do?
Sandhills won.
Sandhills won. They're always going to beat a fox. They can go where a fox can't follow. Now, Bill, you also we want to talk about a new show, but I really enjoy Due North Outdoors that you do with Laura Sharon. Of course, Dad Ron jumps in there from time to time. But a great show on Fox Sports, and it's Thursday night. I don't know the original time it's on. I always catch it at 10 p.m. on the rerun.
It kind of airs around the live sports on Fox Sports. You know, they're good friends of ours over there, and it's nice to be able to tag into the Twins broadcasts and the Wild. And obviously, when those teams are playing well, there are a lot of people watching. So
who would have thought the Twins caught fire? And you guys and you and Laura really make a great team.
Well, sure do appreciate it. Now, oddly enough, we have a new team coming on the air. I have a new co-host, Lindsay Hayes, who comes to us originally from Wisconsin, but we found her working up in Detroit, doing some outdoor stuff, and we called up and said, "Hey, Lindsay, how do you feel about working on a new show?" And she said, "Yeah, let's do it." So,
you know, Bill, where do you guys come up with all this creativity? You know, I grew up, you know, watching Ron Sharon and idolizing him. You know, we still get the calendar and stuff. And then, you know, just to see how everything has grown from the different TV shows to Due North and then the Flush. And now, honestly, I was on Facebook this morning, even before I saw tonight's lineup from Mark, our producer, and I see this ad about this new show about how outdoor things are made, and I'm like, oh man, how cool is this? And I'm like, oh my God, it's Bill Sherrick. He's got another TV show, right? How did you guys come up with this?
It's the old cliche. There are no new ideas, right?
Right.
You know, I've been a fan for a long time of the TV show called How It's Made.
Absolutely. Yeah, fun.
Great show. Just shows how stuff gets built. It's really sterile. And several years ago, we just had this vision, this idea. You know, I think outdoorsmen and women who own their stuff, you know, it's not just a shotgun. It's just not a fishing pole. There's something deeper. You know, we're connected to those things. They create profound memories. And I thought, you know, if you could go behind closed doors and see the things that people never get to see, and see the stuff get made, that might be something.
It is something.
Yeah, one of the things I was at, whether, you know, it's one of the Clam guys when we're up there for their open house, and they let me sneak back into research and development, and I don't know what it is. I don't need to know exactly how it was developed or how it works or what composite it's made out of, but I want to know. Yeah. I mean, I'm just, you know, I'm going to go out and use it, and I want to know how it's put together. I don't need to know, but I want to know.
It's incredible. And what we're finding as we tour these facilities, number one, you've got a whole bunch of employees who are really passionate about building all this stuff. But all these companies have had to engineer one-of-a-kind machines to build everything.
Yeah.
You know, you don't just go out and buy a machine that makes Rapalus.
Right.
You have to find somebody who's a lot smarter than any of us who can engineer and say, well, if we stick this in the end, the wood will spin and it'll carve out and it'll be a perfect bait every time. So that's been a really neat part of gathering. And again, I'm curious by nature, and that stuff to me is just really intriguing. So we hope, you know, viewers feel the same way.
You know, I think the listeners, Bill, are going to be in for a real treat. You know, this last 5 years, our listeners, when they're watching your show, because, you know, you meet these folks that are with these companies, from rods to boats to motors or canoe paddles. I think I saw a canoe paddle in the Facebook ad. You just stole the words out of my mouth. I whispered to Zepp and Stu, is the passion. You know, all these people we've had on the passion and the story that went into their product line. That's going to be really neat. And you touched on it when you talk about folks that make lures or crankbaits. I mean, they're pumping out so many different colors. Mm-hmm. It's just got to be amazing, Bill, when you get the opportunity to go behind the scenes. And what's really cool is, you know, some of these folks look at this equipment they have because it's kind of proprietary to what they do, that they allow you to go back and actually show the public.
You just have to beg and plead. Well, one example. We were down at Minn Kota not long ago, down in Mankato, and they have a testing room with a mad scientist, literally. And they have this electromagnetic vibration machine hooked up to a computer. And every once in a while, they'll just grab one of the trolling motors or the chargers of the Talons, and they put it on this thing. And what they did is they put a bunch of sensors on boats and took that boat out in like a 6-foot chop and drove the boat until they couldn't drive it anymore. And they kind of recorded everything. And that vibration machine replays that whole scenario. So we sat and watched this trolling motor shaking on top of this thing, just wide-eyed. And then the mad scientist said, "That's nothing. Step here behind the plexiglass."
Look out.
Yeah.
But it's like the Death Star. I mean, they turn this thing up, and this motor is vibrating. You can't even see it. It's vibrating so much. And that's just cool. And that's how these companies test their products, because they know how we are on a Saturday when we take the boat out. So, we'll show some of that stuff in the show, too.
Our guest, Bill Shirk, along with Lindsay Hayes, Made for the Outdoors, featuring our favorite outdoor products and how they're made. Let's tell our listeners, when's it on? Where's it on?
Well, the countdown is on. It starts Saturday of this week, July 2nd, on Fox Sports North and Fox Sports Wisconsin. It'll air a couple of times a week. I should know the exact air time. I think it's 10:30 on Saturday mornings for the initial airing, and then our good friends over at Fox Sports will probably repeat it a couple of times throughout the week.
Fox Sports North, if you go there, they have that little search, and they're Made for the Outdoors. Or if you Bill Shirk, SHERCK. I think most people know that. If you put that in, that's how I found it. I just put your name in the little search box, and Made for the Outdoors comes up. It gives you all the show times.
Yeah, we're really excited. And again, it's a idea we've been sitting on for many years, and we finally one day said, well, just so we need another project. So we fired it up, and I hope everyone enjoys the show. First seasons are never perfect because you're kind of getting your feet about you, but we think it's an awfully good. Lots of interesting products, Evinrude motors, Lund boats, Bending Branches paddles, all kinds of stuff.
Well, I tell you what, Bill, I appreciate that, because you just stole my next question, which was going to be, can you give us a little preload to some of the stuff? So now we're here on the fly on radio. Bill, when you guys are thinking of a new show like this for our listeners, and you're thinking, you know what, we're going to go behind the scenes. We're going to go and look at how a boat motor was made or how a boat was made. How does that translate? So you're on a whiteboard and you say, hey, let's do this. How does that translate into, guess what's going to be on July 2nd at 10:30 a.m. on Fox North? Your show.
We don't overcomplicate it, to be honest with you. I am, 22 years in the television biz now. We go out with a photographer and a producer, and we gather stuff. We don't have trucks full of cameras and lights and all that stuff. We just kind of keep it simple. So we do a little research, and, this sounds like a good product. Oh, these are interesting steps. Anything proprietary that we absolutely cannot show, great. We'll see you on Tuesday. We're coming together. And that's kind of how it happens.
And Bill, one last question. I know we're going to be wrapping it up here in a minute or two, but can you give our listeners a little bit of teaser of what they're going to expect to see this Saturday at 10:30 a.m.?
This weekend we start with the story of Bending Branches. Of course, they used to make hockey sticks, but they are the premier paddle maker in this part of the world. And to see that process is amazing. To take strips of wood and turn them into something so beautiful that cuts through silent water, canoe paddles, kayak paddles, now stand-up paddles.
Right.
Really a cool process.
And that paddle boarding is getting really big. I have a friend that has an order in for one, and he was actually my dentist, and was showing me photographs of it, and it's, just absolute work of art.
Hey, Bill, I'll tell you what, I can guarantee you can have at least one person watching the show on Saturday because at least one. Yeah. I had a canoe paddle made by a guy named Nate Olson. He owns a company called New to You, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
And he made me a paddle. My wife had it made for me for some. It's the artwork and the skill behind these guys is phenomenal. I'm going to call them to watch the Fox Sports North Saturday at 10:30. This is going to be fun. Pretty
But again, the point is that thing is not just a tool to you. There's something magical about it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This guy was showing me when your dentist, while you're sitting in the chair, is showing you pictures of a stand-up board paddle. It's not because I got a stand-up board and I've got a paddle. He's showing me something that he's waiting for it. It's being finished, and he's so excited about it. And I'm going to let him know that we get to see how it was actually made.
Yeah, this is exciting. I'm excited about this.
All right, listen, guys, we've got to let Bill go and move on with the fishing report. But, Bill, I forgot one last thing that I'm just thinking about. Made for the Outdoors takes you to a lot of factories, takes you to a lot of interesting places with interesting people, and you talk about these mad scientists. But now, this isn't one of your outdoor fishing and hunting shows.
No.
Is it starting to impede in that? Are you going to be able to, do you worry about getting out and doing the fishing and hunting?
No.
Yeah.
Not at all. And just real quickly, the premise in television, there are certain things that always sell. Home improvement, cooking, science.
And good-looking co-hosts.
Science-based.
Yeah, this is the science. And Stru said, and good-looking co-host. I'm guessing that's where Lindsay comes in.
Isn't that funny? There's a pattern there. Someday I'll learn.
Our guest is Bill Shirk, 5 Emmys, maybe another one for Made for the Outdoors with Lindsay Hayes, premiering this Saturday. That's on Fox Sports North, and I think we thought 10:30 a.m. is when that was happening. Go to Fox Sports.
That sounds right.
Go to the website and do what I do, DVR it, record series, and it's there whenever you're ready to settle in and watch it.
Sure do appreciate it, guys.
Bill, good luck with everything, and thanks, buddy, for taking some time.
Take care.
All right.
You bet.
There he goes, Bill Shirk. All right. That's it, gang. Boomer. It's fishing report time.
Let's talk some fishing.
Ticket Outdoors on 105 The Ticket. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, only on 105 The Ticket.
Joey Logano just screens out into the lead. McMurray slots in the second. Matt Kenseth and Kevin Harvick side by side for third.
A 4th of July weekend tradition. Daytona International Speedway under the lights. The Coke Zero 400 is Sunday night starting at 5:30.
That's the battle for the lead in turn one.
This is Brad Keselowski. This is Dale Earnhardt Jr. This is Jeff Gordon. This is Jimmy Johnson. This is Kevin Harvick.
Your home for NASCAR in the Twin Cities is Sports Radio 105 The Ticket.
Well, Minnesota fishing season is officially here, and it's time to hit your favorite lakes and fishing spots. Boomer here with the Ticket Outdoors, and I want to thank Alumacraft for being our official boat sponsor. I just got off the water with my Alumacraft T-Pro, and boy, do I love the space, storage, and sweet ride on the water. I love Alumacraft because they're made right here in Minnesota, and they're simply the best aluminum boat on the market. For more about Alumacraft, visit your local dealer or go to alumacraft.com.
There are reasons they're called the silent sports. No engines, no fumes, no wakes. Just the sound of a paddle blade knifing through the water. And maybe the occasional call of a loon who's willing to share a lake. Glide across your favorite water this summer with a canoe, kayak, or stand-up paddleboard. Mills Fleet Farm has them all. This year, really get on the water with Mills Fleet Farm.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105 The Ticket.
Just a rockin' and a rollin' on through another Ticket Outdoors. Good to have the team all back together.
I miss
nice
Boomer.
to be in studio.
I miss Boomer. We left poor Stru with the wild man over there, the big teddy bear. Is he asleep?
Is Mark asleep?
Yeah, he's out cold.
There he is.
Nope, he just made a move. He just scratched himself. We know he's awake. Mark, Luke, you guys actually sounded good last week.
But I'll tell you what, you got the text from my wife, Diana, right? And then she said she texted you.
Who needs me?
Yeah, who needs Zep? But we had a hell of a show last week, and it was a lot of fun.
You guys did a great job. And I got to be honest, I did miss you guys, too. I was starting to get the shakes. So we're going to have the big group hug after
Getting
this,
all warm and fuzzy in here now. I'm ready to talk about some fishing. Now, Boomer, We've got a lake report here. John Thielen told us that we're kind of in a sweet spot. I was wondering about that, and that's one of the things I wanted to ask you going into this week's fishing report, now that we're all back together, is we had that great early ice out.
Yes.
We got off to a wonderful start for open water season. Temperatures haven't been really hot. We're supposed to get towards 90 this weekend, so that'll bring the temperatures up a little bit. But even today, just 73, 74 for a high. We've had temps in that really 65 to 70, 60 to 70.
Yes.
And that really seems like it's extending that really prime fishing time.
It has. John talked about it. We're having a spectacular fishing season here in the state of Minnesota. And it's because we had that early ice out, and a lot of people had some great walleye fishing to begin with. You pound the shorelines right away. And the water surface temp is what you look at as a fisherman on your graph or GPS, has been flirting in that 70s. It's not in the high 70s yet. And so the bite has still been pretty good because a lot of those fish haven't really separated and gone deep. And we've got a lot of folks that are headed to the lake this weekend. We're the land of 10,000 lakes. July 4th weekend, state of Minnesota. It's going to be awesome. And I want to talk a couple things with our listeners. One is, John kind of preluded to it a little bit during his interview, is pan fishing has still been unbelievable. I mean, Zepp, you've been out there working the shorelines and had luck, right?
Normally, when we get to July, I really kind of hang up the shore fishing for panfish. Just we're getting warm. We've been well into the 80s for a while, and we've been kind of kissing the 90s a little bit when we get to this time of year. But I am not kidding you. I feel like some days when I'm out there, I could throw out a bare hook and nail them. And I'm not even really going that deep. Normally, this time of the year, you try to find some bridges, some overpasses, find some deeper water if you're going from the shore. You just can't miss. It's so much fun to be out fishing right now.
Yes, and if you got the family out there, you're in your Alumacraft or you're in your pontoon or whatnot, if you got a bigger family and friends, one of the things that I'm going to be looking for in the T-Pro this time of year is I'm going to be working those weed lines close to shoreline. John kind of talked about that. Those panfish, those crappies and sunfish are still going to be near the shorelines. So one thing that for our listeners to do, if you got the family out there and you got the kids, guys, it's not always about quality at that time. It's about quantity. So rig up some lines. The thing I've talked about on previous lake reports is throw a bobber on there, put a little jig on there with, a little crappie jig or a little plastic, and run that on those weed lines. Waxworms work perfect. So it's an easy thing to put on there, and if kids will touch it, it's a great way to get on a panfish bite. Work those shorelines.
Red wrigglers, or, because night crawlers are getting a little big for some of your panfish if you want to bust them up a little bit. But if you want that good wriggling action, red wrigglers, or really just take a spade and turn over a corner of Diane's garden. Just really like we used to do it with the coffee can. They are hitting them like hot.
Cool. And start all your kids off with different lengths of lead from where the bobber is to the hook, and then when one of those kids seems to get more bite than the other, then you want to check what the depth is from the bobber to the hook and change them to that. Now, the fun thing for mom and dad is, or maybe the older kids, is if the little kids or if the other people in the group want to chase those panfish on those shorelines where the weed lines are right now, but you want to chase some bigger fish. Well, predator fish are going to hang around where the sunfish and crappies are, right? Because they got to eat. So this is the time of year that you can even throw like a daredevil if you're looking for a big northern.
Throw a spoon out past them.
Throw a spoon out past them, work that weed line, or run a bigger bobber with a bigger type of minnow or those bigger suckers that you can see and you can get into a big pike. Or the bass, I was talking to HMG's Adam Griffith a couple weeks ago. Those bass are going to hang around where the sunfish are too because they want to eat. So run a bass rig as well. You can also get away with doing topwater this time of year, which, guys, if you've never caught a bass on a topwater, if you've gone frogging, it's absolutely a blast. So if you're looking for those panfish with the crappies this time of year, it hasn't warmed up to the point where they're gone too deep. Look for those weed lines. Now, for the walleye fishing guys and girls, those walleyes are starting to move a little deeper. And when I was on Osakis just a little bit ago, and I want to thank Merwin and his family and the Osakis Lake Guide Service, we went to the deeper parts of the water, and we were looking for bars and humps that were kind of off the beaten path. And so we'd run the graph or the GPS out there, Strew and Zepp, and we would look for spots where we'd see a little rise up. And if we saw that rise, so if we were in 25 feet, we saw it go up to, let's say, 18 to 19 feet, and it would stay steady for maybe 10 to 15 yards. We would call that a bar we wanted to work. Now, this little rig guy here that we got from Lindy Rig, what's the appropriate name on there? The little guy? The little guy, right?
Little guy, yeah. Little guy.
Lindy little guy.
Little guy.
And it's a Lindy Rig, right? With it's got a little crankbait on there.
Yep, and most of the time, the generic term for this is going to be a live bait rig in fishing, and you're going to have a single or a double harness. A single harness is going to be the one hook, and a double harness is going to mean that you're going to have two hooks. The reason this gets really popular this time of year is because those walleyes do start to transition to the middle of the lake, and they're going to be less kind of crowded. And when you're running these at about 0.5 miles an hour, you're going to run a Lindy Rig, and depending on the clarity of the water, you're maybe going to have traditionally 12 to 18 inches from where your weight is, or what we call the bottom bouncer, typically a half ounce to an ounce. And then you're going to have your bait on the end of that hook of that snell 12 to 18 inches out. Now, if you're going to be in clear lakes, that's when I would maybe look at 2 to 3 feet as far as the length from your bottom bouncer to your hook. But you can move around these bars pretty fast with the Lindy Rig, and that's why it's so popular this time of year, because it's a slower presentation than a crank, but allows you to cover bodies of water for those walleyes that get a little lazier in those deeper pockets.
Now, John was mentioning putting a bottom bouncer on that, right?
Yep.
If I don't have a bottom bouncer in my tackle box, can I just throw a bell sinker on there?
Yeah, you can. You can run a bell sinker. You can also run like a bullet hook, bullet weight, and all that type of stuff.
Okay.
Now, the live bait presentation that you're going to use on these harnesses, typically you're going to use a leech about a month ago, and now we're starting to transition to worms because, as John alluded to, we have the bug hatch, and the worm is a really nice presentation. Here's a tip for our listeners that I learned from Scott out there at Lake Osakis Guide Service, was if you're using a single hook or a double hook on the worm harness like I got on this little guy, the one thing I like to do is on the front hook, I like to hook it right through the head, okay? And then the second hook, leave just a little space, and then hook it about 3/4 down. Now, here's a trick to really make that worm stand out that I learned to use. You can buy like this little bottle zap that's got like a little syringe needle, and you can poke it into the worm. Now, here's a trick. When you look at a night crawler, the darker colors typically near the head, about a quarter down from the head, you see like it's almost like a ring on the worm, right? And then it extends down to the body. Stick that syringe into that ring part, and then give it one puff, and what it does is it blows that worm up a little bit, and it makes it float, and it gives it a little presentation that is more natural for those walleyes.
Sounds kind of mean to me.
Well, you know what? If PETA's listening, we're probably in trouble, but what it does is it keeps that worm, with your bottom bouncer out here, it keeps that worm floating on the top, and it gives it a better presentation. Now, if you were chasing walleyes, let's say you only get a couple trips a year, and at the beginning of the year you were using the old Minnesota typical jig and a minnow bite, right? You're going to feel that thump, right? And you typically, when you feel that thump or that dead weight with a jig and a minnow, a jig and a shiner, a spot tail, or whatever you like, you're going to set the trigger real quick. You're going to set your hook set, keep your rod tip up for tension, and then you're going to start reeling in. When you're running these Lindy rigs, open the bail, and then use your index finger to kind of keep tension on the line.
Yeah.
And because when the walleyes are going to bite these Lindy rigs, guys, most of the time, now, I haven't used this little guy. He said it's going to be more aggressive, and I believe him. But with your traditional live bait rig, it's going to feel more like dead weight. And you let your index finger go. And you know, John mentioned counting to 5 to 10 seconds. You can count all the way to 20 seconds. Just let the bail run. Once you close the bail and you have your hand on the reel that you're going to lift up, don't just set the hook then. Start to reel in really slowly, till you feel a little bit of tension, and then you set the hook. That's going to be something that when most people transition from a jig and a minnow bite to using like a live bait rig, that's commonly the first mistake that I'll see, guys, is they start to set the hook too early. So again, I know we're wrapping it up here, but let that walleye run with that Lindy rig for about 5 to 10 seconds. Start to reel in till you feel tension, and then set the hook and look for those bars and humps in the middle of the lake, and you should have some good luck this July 4 weekend.
The people can't see this on the radio, of course, but Boomer's standing up and he's pretending like he's reeling a reel
he's
and he's
actually
setting the hook.
fishing right now.
He's pretty excited about this.
He's talking to us on the boat right now is what he's doing.
Yes.
And normally we have some music, and that's sort of your cue to get out of that, Boomer. I apologize. Apparently, that's the production snafu of the night. We don't have the bed to run us out.
The first one.
That's fine. So for our listeners, again, if you're going to look for those panfish, work the shorelines, the weed lines, the panfish are still there. The water temps are right for that. And if you want to chase bigger fish while someone's looking for those panfish, throw something that's shiny, going to make some noise like a daredevil for those pike. Also, you can run a frog on the topwater this time of year for bass. If you want to change it up, go in the mornings over the evenings for the walleyes, and on those bars and humps, it's now the time to Lindy rig, boys.
Go fishing, and happy 4th of July, everybody.
Take care.
We'll talk about our big festivities when we come back next Wednesday on Ticket Outdoors.
Summer fun begins at Mills Fleet Farm. For thrills on the water, jump on a full-throttle Enforcer towable. On sale, $99.99. Save on Michelin tires. Buy 4, get a $70 MasterCard reward card. Bring home the good stuff for your pets. Get a $10 gift card when you buy select sizes of Science Diet dog or cat food. And stock up on Pine Tree Farms suet cakes. They're just 69 cents each at Mills Fleet Farm.